Tladi says authorities are currently on scene monitoring the situation. Former President Jacob Zuma's bid to privately prosecute his successor, President Cyril Ramaphosa, will likely reach finality tomorrow. This as the matter will return to the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg. The private prosecution, which was invalidated in July 2023, has been sitting idle on the court's criminal roll pending appeals. The latest appeal at the Constitutional Court was refused in an order dated February 3rd, with the court finding no reasonable prospect of success on the merits. Kenny Mapanga reports.
Former President Zuma sought to privately prosecute the incumbent over the alleged leak of his health records in his corruption trial before the KZN High Court in Pietermaritzburg. Zuma accused his successor of being an accessory after the fact in the alleged leak. The former president's latest failure to revive the private prosecution bid may bring this chapter to a close, as the matter is likely to be removed from the criminal court roll on Thursday. Kenny Mapanga, SABC News, Johannesburg.
Low-cost airline FlySafair Air could find its operations grounded if its parent company Safair Air fails to reduce its foreign shareholding within a year. The Domestic Air Services Council has found that Safair Air is not fully compliant with the foreign ownership limits outlined in the Air Services Licensing Act. This relates to the requirement that 75% of voting rights must be held by South African citizens who are residents of the country. After the Council's meeting last month, the airline was also told to submit a term sheet detailing its milestones and compliance plan, with the deadline lapsing tomorrow. Transport Department spokesperson Colin Msibi.
The Council's decision has effectively given an opportunity for Safair Air to remain in the skies while fixing its compliance matters. In its letter to Safair Air, the Council stated that should Safair Air fail to comply within the deadline of 12 months, it will be required to appear before the Council to justify why its license should not be suspended or revoked.
A special investigating unit aims to recover millions of rands lost due to alleged corruption and maladministration at the Lepelle Nkumbi municipality in Limpopo. SIU spokesperson Kaiser Khanyago says they're investigating contract irregularities at the municipality between 2013 and 2016. Khanyago further says they will be investigating over 2 million rand allegedly lost during the refurbishment of the municipality's civic center.
Proclamation 245 of 2025 at Lepelle Nkumbi local municipality mandates the SIU to investigate serious maladministration in the affairs of Lepelle Nkumbi municipality in Limpopo regarding the procurement and contracting for goods, work and services for 6 contracts.
Beijing says the decision by the U.S. Postal Service to stop accepting packages from China is an attempt to suppress its companies. The move will have a major impact on Chinese online retailers Shein and Temu, which ships millions of items to America every month. No reason has been given by the U.S. The BBC's Stephen MacDonald has the details.
The Chinese government has called on the Trump administration to stop weaponizing trade and economic issues after a ban on parcels from China was announced in the US. Donald Trump had earlier promised to close a loophole allowing Chinese e-commerce retailers such as Shein and Temu to bring goods into America duty-free via low-value packages which are under the payment threshold. The freeze on parcel deliveries is thought to have been introduced to prepare for new charges to be imposed.
Recapping the top story, Ekurhuleni Emergency Services have evacuated a group of residents from the Tina Sonke informal settlement in Alberton following a fuel line leak. I am Mondila Mbana for SFM News Headlines at 3:30.
A very good afternoon to you in your SFM sports headlines. Plenty to look forward to as there's 6 uncapped players that are named in the Proteas ODI squad. And we also got UFC 312 Dricus brushing off criticism on his fighting style. All the details around 3:30.
My business is very stressful. Construction and plumbing, anything can go wrong. The reason I chose OUTsurance because they align with my vision with regards to customer service. The fact that they won the award for best business insurance makes me feel like I'm in the right hands.
Switch to Business OUTsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course, We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll get a fantastic price for your car. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So can you quite believe it? We are one day ahead, or one day before the State of the Nation address for tomorrow. And what's unique about this year's State of the Nation address, do you know, it's the very, very first one where the president of the country speaks as the president of the GNU and not just of his own political party. Because up to now, the president has always been the president of the African National Congress. It still is the case. But for the first time, that party does not have that 50+1 absolute majority that they've always had since that very first election. So it could be a very, very different State of the Nation address, don't you think? But here's a thought to you up front, okay? And I'd love to get your one word, or just a one word to describe it. Give me one word to describe the State of the Nation. I don't need 10 lines, just one word to describe the State of the Nation. My name's Ashraf Garda. Looking forward to your one word, looking forward to your broader comments about the State of the Nation. And how do you do that? You can call in to 086 000 2032. You then have the option to WhatsApp in text or voice note form, 0614 104 107. And then, as always, you can tweet, as many people do on the X platform. Just tweet out, tag SAFM Radio, do tag me, Ashraf Garda, and use the hashtag The National Pulse. So that's the one thing. Firstly, one word for you to describe the State of the Nation. I'm happy to take some WhatsApp calls or voice notes immediately, in fact, on that issue. The other is, and we're going to talk about this right away, the issue of the United States President Donald Trump now saying that they'll move in, they'll take over, the USA, that is, will take over Gaza in Palestine. What is your understanding of it? I mean, for some people, it's like, maybe that's the way to solve a problem. The others were like, hold it, isn't that a type of annexation? And to go even further, others have suggested that's ethnic cleansing, because he's suggesting that the people of that region, the 1.7 million, that's his number, needs to move out. Because that place is like hell, not giving them an option to live there. And then he's suggesting that that Egypt and Jordan will take them in, and he suggested they will take them in because, you know, we've done lots of things for them, which suggests that one thing about Donald Trump, what he often says suggests that he's made a deal already. And I wonder where that goes in the context of where he sees the world, because since he's been inaugurated as the president of the USA, there's not a single day that he's been out of the news. Every single day he's pronounced on something really important that affects all parts of the world, but it certainly affects South Africa as well. Right, if you have any thoughts, let's get it right away. First of all, your one word that you would to describe South Africa, the State of the Nation. But if you want to comment on Donald Trump's calling, saying that the people of Gaza should leave that region, or the Palestinians should leave that region in Gaza, and, you know, to make way for it, and we'll just flatten it up. And then later on he suggested they'll rebuild the area into some sort of a Riviera, I think is what he said, right? So we'll talk about that. We'll chat to Zenit Adam about it later on. We'll chat to Guy Azriel before that from I-24, which is an Israeli-based news agency. But let's see if we can get some quick calls on this issue right away. Churchill, no, in fact, we don't have Churchill's thoughts. We'll get to Churchill in a moment or so. Later on, we will be chatting to Ann Bernstein as part of the SONA build-up too. And I wonder, just talking about SONA, besides your one word, do you find this, remember, this is also the first SONA of the MK party. Have I got my facts right? Yes, it is the first SONA of the MK party. It's also the first SONA of the EFF, remember them, without some of those big hitters that are part of their party who would be elsewhere. So things have changed considerably. Let's see how that is in fact going to play out, right? Okay, let's now connect to the big story, and that's about the United States President Donald Trump. In fact, we'll get to that right after this.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so just think about that. The fact that it's the very first sonar without the EFF's big hitters with them, besides Julius Malema. You don't have Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Lots of speculation about where he's headed, right? In fact, many saying, that's it, he's moving to the ANC, right? Then, of course, the MK party in their very first sonar address. I understand that Jacob Zuma, the former president of the country, and the African National Congress will be there. So there'll be lots of different dynamics that will be at play as well, right? And then, of course, you're going to have the DA, not as the opposition, but very much part of the government of national unity. And it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out as well. And then, as always, there will be smaller parties and how those parties, effectively, many of the parties align to the GNU, what that says for them and how they will respond. In terms of the issue that is very normal in so many of our State of the Nation addresses, disruption, I don't think that's going to happen. I would be very, very surprised. In fact, it was very toned down in the last election. Remember that, the last sonar rather, when I think the EFF realized that they were losing ground because of that. Okay, let's get then to the issue of the American President Donald Trump. So he made a similar call a few weeks back, but then confirmed it again yesterday. He reiterated his suggestion that the Palestinians should leave Gaza and relocate to countries like Egypt and Jordan. However, his proposal has been rejected by both countries, the Egyptians and the Jordanians, and other Arab nations as well, including Saudi Arabia, as well as the Palestinian leaders. But for many people, they are seeing this as a call, an open call for ethnic cleansing. So what really informs his position? What does this really mean? Where will all this end up? My guest is Guy Azriel, who's a diplomatic correspondent for I24 News, and he's been in Washington now at this time of this big announcement. So, Guy, thank you for connecting here on the National Pulse.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you. So, of course, you've heard what Donald Trump said, right? And different people are interpreting it very, very differently. So I'll leave it to you to say, what do you make of what he said? How do you internalize this? What does it mean?
The press conference and also at the Oval Office earlier, I think that the statements that we heard from President Trump yesterday left not just the entire crowd there, the journalists, in shock, but obviously much of the world. I think many of the close advisors of Netanyahu who were in the room were hearing about this ambitious plan for the first time there as well. And as we also learned from the Wall Street Journal, this is something that Trump has thought about only in the past several days and only shared it with his very close advisors. So definitely much surprise.
Okay, so you're just confirming that everybody got caught by surprise, including yourself. Let me just recap. If those who've missed it, this is exactly what Donald Trump said.
I think Jordan and Egypt will, I know they've spoken about it with you, and they say they're not going to accept. I say they will. But I think other countries will accept also. I think that Gaza maybe is a demolition site right now. If you look at Gaza, there's hardly a building standing, and the ones that are going to collapse. You can't live in Gaza right now, and I think we need another location. I think it should be a location that's going to make people happy. You look over the decades, it's all death in Gaza. This has been happening for years. It's all death. If we can get a beautiful area to resettle people permanently in nice homes and where they can be happy and not be shot, not be killed, not be knifed to death like what's happening in Gaza. And right now you have in Gaza a very dangerous situation in terms of explosives all over the place, in terms of tunnels that nobody knows who's in the tunnel. The whole thing is a mess. And I think that if we can resettle, and I believe...
Okay, so that's part of the clip, guys. So just firstly, in terms of your own interpretation, and I'm saying that because I accept different people will interpret this differently. So first of all, you're saying that big surprise for everybody concerned. How then do you interpret this? What does this mean in terms of what is he actually saying?
Look, what we can first of all, the president is unpredictable. This is Donald Trump, and Netanyahu addressed that as well in his very short speech. And what was interesting is that Netanyahu didn't immediately embrace this plan on stage. He said Trump has an interesting idea, but we are hearing from people close to the prime minister today describing this plan as something of a genius plan to solve problems that the state of Israel is dealing with for many years. Look, I will tell you personally, as an Israeli who lives very close to the Gaza border all my life, the issue of Gaza has been the biggest headache for Israeli prime ministers, for the security establishment, and for Gazans as well, and particularly for the past 20 years. What we saw 20 years ago was that Israel realized the conflict with the Gazan people is one that is very difficult to resolve, especially when Israel had quite a few settlements inside Gaza until 2005. And then with a brave decision of then Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, Israel decided to forcibly take out all these Israelis out of the Gaza Strip. So if we're talking about relocation of civilians, then we've seen that already in the case of Israelis who were forced to evict from their homes in Gaza. The government back then believed that would be a solution, separating Gazan Palestinians from Israelis, crossing the border, having no Israelis inside Gaza, no military presence inside Gaza, in hope that that would bring a better future. In reality, what happened over less than a year later was that Hamas was elected into power in the elections, and since then obviously took over that area completely, used all the international funding that was sent into Gaza for its terror infrastructure, and turned this situation into one that is just completely impossible. Okay. And we saw not just thousands of rockets fired at Israel on a almost daily basis, but military operations that didn't really achieve anything, especially, well, at least until the latest one, obviously, with a big turning point of October 7th and that massacre that changed the picture and forced Israel into this war. But as for the plan, I have to tell you that this sort of idea was maybe in the very fringes of the Israeli right. Anything related, or even closely, that closely resembles this idea of relocating the Gazans out of Gaza. So the political system in Israel finds it very difficult to deal with this idea now. I think even left-wing politicians are baffled with how to address this and whether this is realistic. That's
okay.
The very basic of this.
So therefore, just a quick response in terms of responses from Trump's pronouncements from citizens of Israel, people living in that country, number one, and number two, from the political leadership. Is there anything you can tell us that's happened since we've heard about this pronouncement?
I think, and this is interesting from reading Israeli press and listening to commentators this morning on Israeli radio. Nobody really knows how to react to this. First of all, many are very, I would say, I'm not sure that this plan is really something that Trump plans to force, and rather some suggest that this is only an attempt to push the Hamas out of power and say, okay, if we give up this plan, then you give up your control over Gaza. Perhaps that is just a scare for them. Nobody knows whether Trump really plans to go ahead with this plan. Obviously, many Israelis would love to see a different reality in Gaza, but this was not even something in the conversation in Israel in recent years. This is not something that
it may be a
thought about.
Yeah, it may be a conversation now. Let's do this. Let's find out how real it may be. I'll get your thoughts on that right after this.
With Ford's Blue Sky offers, get a new Ranger XL from just $5,899 per month, including our optional service plan, only when financed through Ford Credit. 10% deposit, prime is 4.75%, 40% residual. Visit your trusted Ford dealer today for Blue Sky offers, where our Ford Family Guarantee comes standard. Limited time offer while stocks last. Ford Credit is a registered credit provider and an authorized financial services provider. T&Cs apply.
Action is getting tougher in the second half of the league. The Folks want to ease off pressure with a win, but the Eagles aim to fly with 3 points to remain in the top 5. This is the Bundesliga, football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Mönchengladbach FC versus Eintracht Frankfurt FC on Saturday, 8 February at 7:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m., bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Now, forget the chocolates and the treats. You can really sweeten your month of love with low-cost insurance for your older car. Without Surance Essential, accident claims are paid in cash, so you can choose the panel beater you want to use. Now, add motor warranty as well, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns, and then get savings with Outsurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. SMS CAR to 43187. You got that? CAR to 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP, and then T's and C's apply, and they're all information available online.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
We'll chat to Zinat Adam in a moment, but for now, Guy Azriel is the diplomatic correspondent for I-24 News, so Israel 24 News. So Guy, here's the thought. As you said, you all got caught by surprise. Nobody really knows. And there's different ways of interpreting it. But for your side, the big call for many people over the last few hours has been, listen, he can say what he wants. This is ethnic cleansing because it will remove an entire group of people from one piece of land to another piece of land without them even saying yes to it. This is ethnic cleansing. Your thoughts?
There's no doubt there's going to be a lot of international law questions regarding this plan if it goes into fruition. It's also, on a practical level, how are we going to see this once people do not wish to evict? Will we see American forces on the ground squeezing them out? This is obviously a very far-fetched idea in a practice level as well. As for the cleansing, of course, but we've seen cases like this in the past, not in our modern history, but Israelis, as we mentioned, remember this from Gaza when the Israeli settlers were pushed out forcibly, by the way. Many of them refused and were forced out of their homes, many thousands of them. Of course, here we're talking about completely different scales. 1.8 million Gazans. I do have to say that we know that many Gazans would be happy to move to quieter areas in the world, but that is far from those numbers, and that if that would happen, that would be just voluntarily. Okay. But here we're talking about something completely different. And
just lastly, I mean, if you're saying yes, this would be an ethnic cleansing, do you see Donald Trump getting into trouble? I mean, I know the USA is not part of the ICJ or not signatories to the ICJ or the ICC, but can you think of a world leader with that stature making a pronouncement like that to forcibly remove a huge amount of people from one place to another and getting away with it?
I did not use that word, but in practice, as I said, this is the eviction of a major population. As for international law, we see how the ICC and the ICJ have been operating in recent years, including those arrest warrants for Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, also the other criminal cases, by the way, issued by South Africa against the State of Israel, in a sense that, in a way that doesn't really reflect the view of many Western countries in the world, and that is why the ICC and ICJ are so, so to speak, unaccepted by the US, and so it's not surprising.
But of course, it also
more moves of that,
but it also is the view
of that kind from Trump, including the withdrawal from the UN Human Rights Council.
Point taken, of course. Many other people would differ with your final comment, but let's leave it at that. Guy, as really diplomatic correspondent at I-24 News. Let's get the thoughts now of Zenit Adam right after this.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, Zenit Adam is the Deputy Executive Director at the Afro Middle East Center. Zenit, appreciate you giving up your time on the National Pulse.
Thank you so much, Ashraf, for having me.
Thank you. Right, you've clearly heard what Donald Trump has said. What is your understanding of the political ramifications of this?
Let's first begin with what your earlier guest had to say, where we know Gazans will be happy to move. How do we know that? Has anybody even addressed a Palestinian in Gaza? What we've been watching in the last week is thousands of Palestinians returning to the north of Gaza, where they were eradicated from, and happily going back to their homes. So when you have an Israeli come on air saying, we know Gazans will be happy to move, it's endorsing an ethnic cleansing and a displacement, one that we saw previously when the Balfour Declaration took place before 1948. We saw the forced removals of Palestinians right across the world, as far as Chile, to the point that we have the most displaced Palestinians living in Chile, very far from the Middle East. And this actually affects the discussions and the political concessions related to the right of return of Palestinians, something that is absolute in terms of the negotiations. The second thing that really was highlighted for me in the discussions with Trump and in the announcement yesterday is suddenly an announcement of 1.8 million Palestinians in Gaza to be moved. We know at the beginning of the genocide in October 2023, there were 2.5 million people. The statistics told us that 45,000 people were killed. What happened to the other 500,000 people? So that means it's an acknowledgement that 500,000 people lie under that rubble. And what Trump plans to do is to really bulldoze that for a real estate deal, to ensure that people have a beautiful seafront to sit at the expense and on the graveyard of 500,000 Palestinians, many of whom were initially displaced in 1948 in the Nakba.
All right, so to confirm, in your interpretation, is what Trump is suggesting ethnic cleansing?
It's not only ethnic cleansing, certainly it is, but it's white supremacy, colonialist expansion, and it's very much in line with the idea of expanding Israel. Now, we must remember that yesterday Trump was also describing Israel by using his pencil as being such a small little spot in the Middle East. This goes to talking about the greater Israel from the Nile to the Euphrates expansionist plan. They're already incurring into Syria, they're already incurring into Lebanon, and the plan would go further beyond that into the Arabian Peninsula.
All right. Let me ask you this, and this is a question I put through to the previous guest, to Guy, right? Can you think of a prominent global political leader who can say what Trump has said and get away with it?
Certainly not. I mean, Trump is now seemingly untouchable. You have Netanyahu also being protected from the ICC and the ICJ. You have South Africa being targeted in every possible way by the Trump and Netanyahu administrations. The two-state solution appears to be the state of the USA and the state of Israel, and that's who determines what happens in the rest of the world.
All right, so two things very quickly before I let you go. One is, what do you think will actually happen? We've heard these pronouncements from Trump, but what do you think is actually going to happen?
Well, in the extreme, it would be troops on the ground from the USA and a real estate deal that we know Israelis have been advertising for these spaces. But if there is going to be any pushback, and we see that in the statements from the Saudis, the Jordanians, the Egyptians, that they are not interested in ties with Israel dependent on the establishment of a Palestinian state. Jordanian position saying that they're prepared to go to war if they're not going to accept these Palestinians because it affects their internal political dynamics in Jordan as well as in Egypt. What this possibly means is a replacement of the Doha-Cairo agreement. What it does do is eradicate phase 3 of the agreement, which was supposed to be the rebuilding and reconstruction for the Palestinians in Gaza. And what it is implying is that Gaza is no longer for Palestinians. In the meanwhile, we have expansion of the settlements and the incursions into the West Bank and the genocide expanding into the West Bank with attacks.
Let me leave you with this thought. When Trump mentioned Israel, Egypt and Jordan a week or two ago and repeated it again yesterday, he did it with a bit of smugness about like it's going to be a done deal because we've done lots of things for them. And here's the point. Is it not the case, and very quick answer, what Trump often wishes for does actually happen? He has this way of delivering on what he wants, however ominous it may be.
Well, he does that as a bullion because the United States owns the coffers of Jordan and Egypt, so they then determine what the political stance of Jordan and Egypt would be. And the question is, are the Arab states willing to rupture that relationship with the USA in honor of their brothers in Palestine, or are they going to do what they've done in the last 15 months and let Palestinians die en masse?
And that is the big question. Zeenat Adam, I'll leave it with you to think about. That's the Deputy Executive Director at the Afro Middle East Center. Appreciate you giving off your time. Slightly delayed news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines, DA leader Johnston Hazen says South Africa needs to review economic empowerment in the country to deal with the current levels of unemployment. Guruledi Emergency Services have evacuated a group of residents from the Tina Sonke informal settlement in Alberton following a fuel line leak, and Saudi Arabia has rejected any attempt to displace the Palestinians from their land. The kingdom said it would not establish relations with Israel without the creation of a Palestinian state. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Johannesburg, the Ray of Air bus services remain suspended following attacks on staff in the Soweto area. The R514 in Hartbeespoort has protest action reported at Sunway, so expect delays and diversions. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Gululis Interchange. In Pretoria, the N14 northbound has delays towards the R101 interchange, and Trans-Oranje Road is slow moving at Morkel Street. In KZN, the N3 northbound in Mooirivier has a truck crash reported near the Mooirivier Toll Plaza, so expect delays. The N3 eastbound in Ashburton has a crash reported after Market Road exit. The M25 Commercial Highway westbound has roadworks reported with traffic restrictions at Mandela Road, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive. The M5 northbound is slow moving towards the N1 Kuburg interchange. On the N1 inbound, a police incident reported just before Okavonga Road, queuing traffic, and Victoria Road outbound is slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
All right, I suppose the other Minister of Sport of ours is getting ready for the Sona. Maybe that's where Tumi is, so I don't know. What are you going to talk about? You're talking cricket, Zai.
I am, and it's all about the interns. So it's the other spectrum of, responsibility. We've got Fresh, we've got Eager, and they're about to find out if the real job is tougher than the practice ones. So, yeah, the Fresh Look Proteas are heading into their Tri-Nation Series against Pakistan and New Zealand then, with key SA20 players unavailable, coach Rob Walter has called up 6 uncapped players, including Matthew Britsky and Mikhail Prince, to showcase their talent. Fast bowler Gerald Coetzee ruled out, and that's due to injury, meaning he also won't be considered for the Champions Trophy. The first match of the series sees South Africa face New Zealand in Lahore. That's on Monday, with Themba Bavuma leading the squad. Soccer news: Mamelodi Sundowns right back Keegan Johannes is ready to earn his spot in the starting lineup now that his injury woes are behind him. The Brazilians signed the defender from their Tshwane rival SuperSport United at the start of the season, but he spent the last few months recovering from ankle surgery. Johannes eventually made his Sundowns debut in the Nedbank Cup round of 32. He got some minutes, and that was a 4-0 win over Golden Arrows at the weekend. He's now hopeful of more game time coming his way.
So far, obviously, my stay at the club has been magnificent. I think, obviously, coming into the team, obviously with injury and stuff, there has been a bit of a mental side that I had to obviously get over. But now, seeing that I'm fit and getting back into match fitness and all of that, it obviously takes time, and obviously with the bunch of great players that we have, we can only get better, and I can only grow as an individual and as a footballer.
And finally, athletics. South African Olympic silver medalist Bradley Nkwana is aiming to qualify for his first World Athletics Championships and the World Student Games in 2025. A World Under-20 100-meter bronze medalist, Nkwana has yet to finalize his race schedule with coach Paul Harris, but has shared some of his plans.
For right now, I can't say because everything needs to be planned with my coach. I just know that when I open my season, I'll be ready and I'll be sharp and I'll be healthy. All is to go to World Champs. Yes, I think I'll still be running under 23s. There's still under 23s and there's USAs as well. So there's also world students. So I'm hoping to qualify for world students and also show that, you know, I'm still one of the best. So, yeah.
Well, as the Proteas run out of time, so do I.
Well, not really. I want to ask you a quick question. Have you been following? I would think so. But have you been going to the games for the SA20, this cricket league?
I haven't following because I don't have that dish.
Oh, okay.
But I know it's MI Cape Town. We had them, you know.
And you haven't been going to the games?
No, I haven't.
No, because I'll tell you why I'm asking is, I don't know how many, is it 2 years or 3 years now, right?
3.
Yeah. And the crowds have been impressive.
Have they?
They have.
Even at that times of evening and weather conditions.
I've seen the crowds wherever. They've been very, very impressive.
That's a huge success story.
I think so.
Is it as big as paddle, though?
Paddle is a participation sport at the moment. It's not a spectator sport. We need to change that.
It is actually. There's a big spectator event happening in Spain as we speak called the Hexagon Cup.
Well, you clearly know your paddle, and you assume that I follow that sport. But if I don't, I better go and check it up. Yeah. All right, we'll talk about paddle and SA20 as well sometime down the line. Thanks for that, Zai.
Ciao.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the Tooth Fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does everyone at your company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul.
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The National School Nutrition Program and social grants are instrumental in ensuring that children's needs for food and other essential services are met. We need a minimum health promotion levy of 20% on all sugary drinks to support social protection initiatives. Find out more on the next episode of Chew on This at heala.org, HEALA.org, on 30 January from 3 p.m.
V up your 2025 with Vodacom Business and Galaxy AI. Save up to 20,000 Rand with trade-in when you pre-order the new Samsung Galaxy S25 Ultra 256 gig on a Red Business 1.5 gig plan for just 1,539 Rand per month over 24 months. Enhance your deal with the Samsung Galaxy Watch 7 eSIM for 69 Rand extra per month. Available in-store and online. Further together. Vodacom Business.
Our story is a South African story.
Anchored in the belief that it takes all of us to build a country that thrives.
To educate our children for a brighter future. To care for our health and well-being.
To nurture our environment to sustain future generations. And to transform and build a stronger nation.
When no one is left behind. Inspiring each other to succeed. Anglo-American.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, tell you what, let's get your thoughts. We'll take your comments very shortly. You can call in 086 000 2032. WhatsApp, you have the option to text or to voice note us, 0614 104 107, right? And then, of course, you can post on social media. Just tag us, particularly on the X platform, on Elon Musk's platform. Tweet us, tag SFM Radio, tag me, Ashraf Garda, use that hashtag, The National Pulse. Now, amongst the issues, the question I brought up earlier, what's your one word, just your one word to describe the state of the nation as it stands? Love to know. But also that point that I brought up, that in fact it's the first one for Ramaphosa and company out as the GNU. Very, very different. And then the conversation I had regarding Donald Trump's pronouncements. Is he this great savior trying to create peace in that region? Or is this what many people are saying? This is ethnic cleansing and there's no other word for it. And what do you make of that? Those conversations I had with Guy Azriel as well as Zenith Adam are available as a podcast. You can check it up on the website for SFM, sfm.co.za. Right, let's talk about the SONA. And Bernstein is with me, Executive Director of the Center for Development and Enterprise. And it's been a long, long time. Good to connect with you on the National Pulse.
Yes, good to talk to you, Ashraf. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you. I certainly follow all your emails that I get sent, so I'm very much in touch with what you're thinking, just so that you know, right? But I don't really know what you're thinking about today. So maybe let's start with this. I asked the question to the audience, just like, what's the one word to describe the state of the nation? So let me put the same question to you. One word to describe it?
Worrying.
Worrying, okay, and you don't need to explain that. That's fine. That's what we want to do. Amongst the things that, and I know that certainly where you sit, you're concerned about jobs. It's an issue you've spoken about often from your organization, the Center for Development and Enterprise. But part of that is, I understand, you're calling for a fundamental push compared to a tweak, and you want to see that being told about at the SONA. So, let's start talking about that first. What are your expectations for tomorrow? Then we'll talk about what do you think is really going to happen.
Well, I don't know about expectations, but what I would like to see happening tomorrow is a much more fundamental shift away from the policies of the previous government that we had. We now have a GNU, and we're seeing some green shoots from the GNU in Transnet, Eskom, and Home Affairs. But it's amazing how little actually policy change is being discussed. We've yet to get the promised agreement on a program of action, and everything I hear about that is not very exciting to me in terms of moving South Africa away from the crises that we have on almost every front. And to think that just because we have a GNU, which is a positive thing, we will inevitably get new policies to deal with South Africa's challenges is a mistake. We have to pressurize and push the GNU to start doing things differently if we're to get the kind of growth that the country desperately needs.
And if, as you're saying, that the GNU has not addressed those issues, including the policy agenda that you have alluded to, why is that the case? Like, why has this GNU, with its diversity now compared to a one-party government in that case, fallen short?
Well, look, I think most countries have a lot longer than 2 weeks to negotiate a new coalition government. Our constitution fails us, I think, in pushing for that to happen where there isn't a majority party after an election in 2 weeks. So we didn't get the kind of detailed program of action agreed between the main partners in the GNU as you might have in another country, which it can often take 7 months. So we haven't got that. And we're now nearly 9 months into the GNU, and we are worried. We're not seeing the kinds of change of direction, new excellent people taking positions as directors general or heads of state-owned companies, or in the municipalities, which the president said in July last year he would ensure that this happened. We get really good people running our municipalities. We're also not seeing sufficient progress in moving the country away from what were the failures of the past. I think everyone has to agree the facts, which are that investment is down, manufacturing is down, employment is down, and that means we need some major policy decisions in a good direction, away from protectionism, from the DTIC. And then my last point would be, I am very concerned about how we have a culture of impunity among elites across the board in this country. And the way to deal with that, a culture of impunity about corruption, the way to deal with that is to have a strong national prosecuting authority. And we don't have that. We have called, and we are hoping, would like the president to do something like this on Thursday. We're calling for a retired judge to look into the NPA, the allegations about why it's not getting successful prosecutions against senior politicians or, really big fish in state capture or corruption. Let somebody impartial look into it, tell us what is going on, or put to rest the allegations that have been made. But also the NPA is not getting support from the executive. The president on Thursday should announce that he is agreeing to the head of the NPA, Shamila Batoy's request in August 23 to suspend a senior official, a regional director in the NPA. To this date, we have had no reply, or she has had no reply. And also, it's outrageous. I don't think there's any other word that the NPA does not have full access to the Zondo Commission archives. The president should instruct the Ministry of Justice to sort this out yesterday.
Lots of problems, clearly. I mean, one of the things you talk about in terms of broad-based is just the need for urgent reform. So let me leave you with this, right? You've said lots of things, and I understand there'll be overlaps in this answer, but 3 things for you that needs the most urgent reform in our country.
Well, first step of reform is getting the right people into key institutions. I don't think we have that across the board in the state. And we have suggested in July last year that you identify some, let's call it 120 for argument's sake, top positions. We know there's been state capture. We know there's been patronage appointments. Let's look at those top positions, let people reapply for their jobs, and see if we have the best people we can possibly get in order to deliver services and all the things that South Africans need. That's my first top priority.
Okay.
The second top priority is we cannot get growth if elites are corrupt and people are looting the state. Changing that dynamic, and we need to fix both the executive support for the NPA and the NPA itself. Why does it keep losing very important cases? And the third issue is we are not going to get growth and turn away from protectionism. We're a small economy, and we need to have an export-driven model which helps grow our economy for domestic companies and will help get more and more jobs.
Well,
Those are my three priorities.
Points noted, points taken. I always say, by the way, Anna, say, don't just say buy local, but build local, sell global. And that sort of fits in squarely with what you just said in your last words. And Bernstein, thanks for your time. Executive Director of the Center for Development and Enterprise, the CDE. We'll have a podcast of that conversation up ASAP. Check it out on the SAFM website, safm.co.za. Right, let's get some audience engagement. I want to know what you feel about the biggest issues that are moving the national pulse.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. that's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, so we've spoken about the SONA and lots of people commenting about the one word for SONA. So please keep it coming. You can tweet it out. You can send us a WhatsApp text message. Just your one word to describe the state of the nation as it stands today, the day before the State of the Nation address tomorrow. Then the issue of Trump wanting to turn Gaza into this Riviera, and effectively getting the people from that region, 1.7 million, to move out. What do you call moving out? I mean, some people are saying ethnic cleansing. Is it as clear as that? And how can it be that a leader of a country can actually pronounce on that and doesn't get taken to task? Or do you see that differently? Jamila in Durban, go for it. Hello.
How are you, Uncle?
Yeah, good. Go for it.
Good. Just a bit of tongue-in-cheek. Trump is advised by a fellow from Pretoria who grew up under the infamous apartheid in South Africa. So obviously, turning Gaza into another Sophia town sounds like a very appetizing gesture. But nonetheless, I think basically all South Africans should be aware that now what's happening in Gaza is really apartheid, because it has all the hallmarks of all the social ablutions that happened in our own country. So black and white, South Africans really should be soldiering, behind all the people of Gaza, because they really need our support now, because they truly up against a huge machinery, which is Western powers, and more especially Twitter and in America. So, us, we know what apartheid is, we know the hallmarks of apartheid, and we should be a shining example to the whole world, by educating them on the things that make apartheid apartheid.
Point taken, Jamila. I think maybe the one part I disagree when you say Gaza is going to be like Sophia Town. Maybe disagree to the point. Well, I suppose it would be right about what you're saying if it means forced removal, isn't it? Because it is forced removal. On the other hand, the agreement with Trump is that it is smashed up as a place. The disagreement with him is when he said that, he didn't question at one point, like, why is that region so smashed up? What has caused it to be this hell? Like, isn't that strange? Okay, Imbawana in Mahikeng, go for it. Hello.
Hi, good afternoon.
Yeah, good afternoon. What's your point?
Yeah, you see, we got 195 countries in the world, and 193 is in the UN. So if the 193 countries in the UN cannot act when one country wants to destroy the whole world, then we're going to form United African countries where we're going to expel all the people, embassies that are causing problems to other human beings.
But when you say we're going to expel them, like, are you the president of the country? I'm just trying to think, like, what are you saying?
We're going to mobilize our Africans, brothers and sisters, to say we don't want to live with people who oppress other human beings in Africa.
Okay, and around the world. Got that point taken in Botswana. Well, I mean, here's the point. I mean, you're right that the UN, the way it's set up, the Security Council, the USA is there, they've vetoed many times. The reason why people don't leave is they are completely dependent on multilateralism. If you leave yourself isolated in the world today, you're completely on the outside, not just socially, but economically. So how do you integrate, but still stand firm and get what you think is right. And that's the big problem that many of the countries face. The question is, what happens to Trump next? Can you imagine if a leader from another country in Africa made that comment about another country? What would we do then?
Hey, Ashraf, my one word is deteriorating.
Okay, got that. Deteriorating. Another.
Hi, Ashraf. The one word is confusion. Thank you, Naren Singh.
Thanks for that. I said, I hope Ramaphosa listens to this because it's true about many of the things, isn't it?
Afternoon, Ashraf. My one word is SONA, GNU or GNU SONA. Matumata Islam Pakistan business. Thank you.
Ah, that's a question. Okay.
Ashraf Butigodlo from Tawi in Lekale Machonisa. According to my understanding, SONA is to report back to the nation that in the previous year, this is how we managed to overcome the challenges that we experienced. In this year, this is how this government is going to look like. This is what we intending to do. On the matter of America, America is provoking Hamas. And if America could intend to do that, there will be some countries that are going to help to make sure that America is not going to succeed on its intention. No, thank you very much.
Well, Americans clearly have allies, and maybe the people of Palestine have allies, but certainly the numbers don't quite stack up, do they? Let's see, there's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. It's Edward. Ashraf, the South African government went to the World Court challenging the displacement of the people in Gaza by Israel. Now that Trump is going to completely remove them from Palestine, is South Africa going to continue to challenge, to take Trump to the World Court? What is their next step? Because they took Israel to court for a lesser offense. Now that Trump is doing a major offense, what is the South African action?
But I mean, quick one, that Trump is not going to do it. That's what he said he's going to do. Okay, whether he does it is another story. But here's it. Help me if I'm wrong. South Africa can't take Trump to the ICC because the United States are not signatories to the ICC, which tries individuals, or to the ICJ, which tries countries. So that's why they could actually have Netanyahu in their country as they did over the last few days, because there's in fact a warrant for him out. So if he comes to many other countries, he would be arrested, but not in the USA. Wesley in the Western Cape. Hi, Wesley.
Good day, sir.
Good day, right. Good. Go for it, Wesley. What's your point?
My take is today, firstly, I can't engage because I can't hear the radio too much, but my response, what I want to say today is that the issue that Trump is busy doing to us in South Africa, we need to keep on. Something that doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And we need to relay with that message that we're going to get out at the end of the day and we're going to be stronger.
Okay, the question is how. You see, someone did say that this could be the best thing that happens to South Africa, with Trump talking down South Africa. But then what it needs is, you see, like tomorrow's SONA, it needs, like a rugby or football team that's been annihilated. It needs them coming back together and saying, let's show you how strong we really are. But if we don't do that, then we're just going to give Trump a reason to say, well, you see, I was right. So we have to be strong. And what's that rugby phrase? Stronger together. There we are.
And fellow listeners, the obsession of America with these Arabic countries, Muslim countries. Now they want to go and move people from Gaza and take over Gaza and move people from Palestine, and now he's mentioning Egypt. Let us not forget what happened in Iraq and Baghdad. Let us not forget what really happened. How many American soldiers were killed? How many orphans were left out? Some of those soldiers, even today, they have not recovered. And then now we want to start another project. Whose sons and daughters must go there? And we know those people there in Gaza and Palestine and Egypt, they're not going to roll over and play that. There's going to be fireworks there. Are his sons and grandsons going to go there?
Well, you've asked lots of questions. I hope you can tweet an answer to that. Thanks for that. Let's get the news now. It's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Steenhuisen calls for a review of SA's economic empowerment, and Saudi Arabia rejects displacement attempts of Palestinians. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. DA leader John Steenhuisen says South Africa needs to review economic empowerment in the country to deal with the current levels of unemployment. Steenhuisen briefed the media today ahead of the State of the Nation address. He says, amongst others, businesses need to invest in the communities they operate in.
Sadly, the current approach, no matter how well-intentioned, has favoured the political elite at the expense of the vast majority of South Africans who remain languishing in poverty, in unemployment and in hunger. This requires an alternative mode of redress, which moves away from direct ownership solely and allows businesses to invest in the communities they operate in, and thereby opening up opportunities for smaller businesses to plug into those value chains. The reality is that unemployment is our number one biggest challenge facing South Africa.
Parliament says it is ready to proceed with the 2025 State of the Nation address to be delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa tomorrow. The annual event will be held again at the Cape Town City Hall. Parliament's presiding officers held a media briefing to give an update on the state of readiness and preparation for the SONA. Speaker of the National Assembly, Thoko Didiza, says the theme for this year is harnessing parliamentary diplomacy for realization of global solidarity, equality and sustainability.
As of Monday, the 1st of February 2025, the City Hall has been designated as the parliamentary precinct in line with Section 2 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislature Act. A two-day debate following SONA will take place on the 11th and 12th, and President will respond on the 13th, and that debate will be held at the Dome, which is a infamous parking where some of you have been able to engage with us in the last year where we had a marquee.
Ekurhuleni Emergency Services have evacuated a group of residents from the Tina Sonke informal settlement in Alberton following a fuel line leak. According to Emergency Services, a fuel line was allegedly tampered with by thieves, resulting in the leak. Ekurhuleni EMS spokesperson William Tladi says authorities are currently on scene monitoring the situation.
So preliminary investigations indicates that due to the thunderstorms that swept through the area, the deceased ran and took cover under a tree that fell on him. He was declared deceased by the Kakamas Emergency Services on the scene.
Saudi Arabia has rejected any attempt to displace Palestinians from their land. The kingdom said it would not establish relations with Israel without the creation of a Palestinian state. Earlier, President Donald Trump stated that the U.S. should seize control of Gaza and permanently displace its entire population. The BBC's Yolanda Nell is in Jerusalem.
Senior Hamas officials, one of them calling what President Trump laid out ridiculous and absurd, and pointing out that this has the potential of igniting the region. On the Israeli side, we've had a very positive comment coming from the far-right Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir, who has himself previously been advocating what he has called migration of Gazans. But then you also have other Israelis, and in particular you've got the families of those hostages who remain in Gaza, now extremely worried that the current ceasefire will not hold.
DA leader John Steenhuisen says South Africa needs to review economic empowerment in the country to deal with the current levels of unemployment. Steenhuisen briefed the media today ahead of the State of the Nation address. I am Ondela Mbana for SAFM News. Headlines at 4:30.
Welcome to your sport on SAFM. We bring you the SA20. We're into the final action as well as soccer action tonight. Look out for plenty of stars when they come out to play between SuperSport United and Mamelodi Sundowns. That kick-off at 7:30. We'll bring you details around 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Edenvale is slow moving at Modderfontein Road and Trans-Oranje Road in Pretoria, slow moving at Morkel Street. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle before the M41 gateway exit, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the N1 outbound slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Ethical is what defines our business. I think OUTsurance does have integrity. They are not just there for the money, they're there to create a relationship. It's like a partner in business. It's the best thing we've ever done to switch over to OUTsurance. It's a no-brainer.
Switch to Business OUTsurance today and you could get a massive 20% discount on your business insurance premium. SMS quote to 43328. That's quote to 43328 to switch and save today. Licensed insurer and FSP. TCs and information online.
Action is getting tougher in the second half of the league. The Folks want to ease off pressure with a win, but the Eagles aim to fly with 3 points to remain in the top 5.
This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be.
Catch Borussia Mönchengladbach FC versus Eintracht Frankfurt FC on Saturday, 8 February at 7:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere, for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m. bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Certainly going to be one very, very different State of the Nation address, I think, because of what it means in terms of, you know, the symbolism around it. I just want to see it, and I want to hear what the president actually has to say that can mean something substantial as opposed to just, you know, wallpaper. Let's see what comes up, right? We're going to have an update on that day 9 years ago, reflecting on that tragedy at the Lily mine. That comes up in a few minutes. But your thoughts, one word to describe the actual state of the nation. Let's hear it. Voice notes work best, 0614-104-107. And then your comments about Donald Trump. Is that ethnic cleansing or what? And what should you do? What should the world do when a leader can openly say that we will take over another country, whatever his intentions may be? It's not about intention. It's about, like, what? How can you even say that? What do you make of that? Right, let's get your thoughts, okay? Here we are on the one-worders.
Afternoon, Ashraf. My one word is Sona, GNU, or GNU Sona. Matumata Islam Park Tempest. Thank you.
Okay, that's a question. I don't know whether it's one of the two. I think it doesn't reflect the state of the nation, does it?
Good evening, Ashraf. This is Siyabonga Mzimela at Newcastle. I can define this upcoming SONA as an constructive SONA. It's supposed to be constructive. Yeah, because the combination of different parties together, Papa.
Different parties together, but what it doesn't say is the actual state of the nation.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Why do South Africans have short memories? What happened to the 500 billion rands that had been secured by the President Ramaphosa to ensure that it assists the South African small businesses in terms of cushioning them against the impact of COVID-19? What happened to that 500 billion rand?
Okay, got that. Let's actually, maybe it's a conversation we need to be having around that issue, right? So what I'll do is, if you wish to call in as well, you can tell me what you think. Just raise the issues that you think you'd like to get off your chest By the way, we're going to talk about this just now. Anybody knows much about that issue at a school yesterday in the KZN region, and there was allegations of racism, but I believe 3 Durban school pupils were stabbed. I really don't know the full story. Centenary Secondary School in Asherville, if you know more about it and what the actual story is and what played out, I would certainly like to know, and you can tell me about that too. Right, there's a whole lot more comments about what you think. Let's see if we can play them. If we can play them right now. Here we are.
Hi, Ashraf. Errol here from Durban. One word for the State of the Nation address: challenging. It's not going to be easy for Cyril Ramaphosa. South Africa is in dire consequences at the moment. So, he hasn't got an easy task. Errol, Durban.
Thanks for that, Errol. I'll tell you what, there isn't a person, and if you asked me that question, what's the one word, I'll give you my word just now, but I must say, sadly so, none of us can be very complimentary about the state of the nation, which does not mean we don't love our country. I absolutely love my South Africa, but I am critical about where we are. In the same way, you can love your favorite rugby team or football team, but you can be critical of them at the same time. I am, which does beg the question, like, where are we and what do we need to be doing next?
Good afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. One word for Sona: squander.
Squander. So the nation has been squandered.
Ashraf, if South Africa continue to be on the wrong side of Trump's presidency, then we're not going to eat pap in vlees. We're going to eat pap in tomato sauce. No more nyama, my brother. Vince Cape Town.
Thanks for that, Vince. But you're not explaining what does the wrong side mean of Trump's presidency. I understand the need for multilateralism and collaboration. I've discussed it before as well. But do you then suggest that we need to just toe the line with Donald Trump? And in one day, he criticizes South Africa in one day. Never mind what he's already said about Mexico and Greenland and Canada previously. But in one day, he does that. At the same time, a day later, he talks about, I don't know, can you call it annexation of a land? That's what he's done. And do we say we support him? Because if not, look what's going to happen to us, right? Let's do this. I'll get more thoughts on some of the issues that you would like to raise. Now, here's the one that I just touched on a moment ago. 3 Durban school pupils were taken to hospital after being stabbed in an alleged racial altercation yesterday. The Centenary Secondary School in Asherville, that's in KZN, right, issued an urgent notice to parents informing them that classes would be dismissed at 9:30 a.m. due to circumstances that have arisen. So what actually happened? What sparked it off? What's the context? What happens next? Muzi Mhlambi is with me, the head of communication for the KZN Department of Education. Muzi, thanks for your time. You're live on the National Pulse.
Afternoon and afternoon to listeners.
Thank you. So, help us understand what actually happened yesterday at the Centenary Secondary School.
Yeah, having spent the whole day at the school with the team that was deployed by the head of department, we can now speak with authority that there was no racial fight. It was just boys who happened to be Indian and African, but the matter started with drugs. But there's nothing that is racial that affects the entire school.
Okay, why has it been reported yesterday of a racial incident?
Somebody that took the video decided to name it as such. That is why even in our statement we said the alleged racial altercation. But when we went to the school, it wasn't the case. It's only somebody that person that took the video that viewed it as
okay.
such.
I gather it happens when people from different race groups are fighting with each other. Automatically, most people don't see people fighting; they just see races fighting with each other, which is wrong. Now, let's get back then to the bigger issue. If you've dismissed race as a factor, there certainly was a factor that caused a problem. You mentioned drugs, and you mentioned, and I understand there's the issue of stabbing. So, what was the actual backstory? What were they fighting and arguing over?
From what we gather, it will seem like an initiation of some sort, where a grade 8 learner was forced to take the drug, and then apparently he reported to some of his senior boys, who then came to his rescue. Unfortunately, a fight ensued. But the issue of drugs in that school, we gathered that it's an issue. So it's something that as SAPS we are going to be working on it. It's unfortunately it's not something that we can talk over the air. But obviously the whole day that we're there, we could realize that that's where the problem is.
All right. So can you confirm that in fact 3 pupils were stabbed and they were taken to hospital?
It was 2 that were hospitalized yesterday, and they've since been discharged, and they are okay. But even if it was 1, it was going to be worrying us. But we think that we did not have any fatalities. But we are monitoring the situation. We have got a program of action that we have mapped out with the stakeholders that we met the whole day, in terms of how we move the process forward, culminating into having parents meeting, community meeting, and other engagements that will see to the school being a normal school and a clean school.
Well, I mean, thank goodness they're fine, but it does lead to that question, which is like, how could they get to a position where they could stab each other? That means with what? I mean, I take it with knives. It again brings the issue of, what's that old movie, Blackboard Jungle? Like, what goes on in schools?
If you go to that school, the school is fenced, number 1. Number 2, during the day, there are 4 security guards that are on duty. That's when we will always urge parents to always worry as to what is it that their learners carry to schools. Because all these things are not provided at school, but they come with from home, and then they have each other.
I mean, I do take it these are high school learners. I mean, do they get searched? Do they get scanned when they get to school, or is that like the budget doesn't allow? Because what I'm saying is maybe that needs to be happening, because it's not just the few learners who are fighting. What about the protection of the majority in that entire school?
We are told that search and seizure is done now and then by SAPS, local SAPS in the area. But when they come to school, obviously they don't have a scan, but they do have a gate where they come in. I don't think it's humanly possible for teachers to be searching learners every day they come to school.
Okay. Well, if it's not humanly possible, and I understand, I maybe empathize with that point, but at the same time, we are having problems in schools of not just violence, but extreme violence. Like stabbing is extreme violence, right? What then needs to be happening next?
That is why we say we need the involvement of parents and everyone else that is concerned about this issue, because us alone as education, we cannot fight and overcome this kind of a scourge. We are overwhelmed ourselves because these drugs, weapons, they bring them to schools from somewhere.
Okay, well, I think there's a thought moving down the line. I appreciate you giving off your time, Muzi Matlambi, the head of communications for the KZN Department of Education. Well, here's to you, the audience, as we certainly look out for audience engagement on this issue. Like, seriously, what do you do if you find that there's a school incident, like at a school where it could be your son, daughter, grandchildren, maybe, it could be you as well, where it turns violent and you find situations like this. What do you do next? How can it ever be okay that a place of learning is in fact potentially, and I use the word potentially, a place of killing? Because, I mean, why would you stab anybody? What's the intent behind stabbing anybody. And there's been examples other days about teachers being, what's the word? Clapped is like a mild word. Teachers being given a hiding by the learners. Like, there's a complete breakdown. And I'm just putting it out there because does anybody know of a school that's been able to turn that around completely? Or do we simply say that this violent society that we live in, well, just get used to it? This is the National Pulse.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Andile, the CEO of a multinational corporation, is driving home with his daughter.
Dad, why is the Tooth Fairy so stingy?
Stingy? Well, she makes sure everyone gets something.
Does every electrical company get something?
Yes, they're covered by Old Mutual Corporate's employee benefits.
Even Abdul?
Of course, he gets retirement benefits.
And Sisampa on that big machine.
She gets group risk cover if that big machine hurts her.
Wow, that's amazing, Dad.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right now, it's all, countdown to the State of the Nation address tomorrow. 7 o'clock is when it all happens, but there's always a build-up to that too, you know that, right? Now, the DA has briefed the media earlier today on the DA's party position regarding the economy, the GNU, as well as expectations for tomorrow's State of the Nation address. So let's play some sound. The DA leader, John Steenhuisen, well, he started by outlining the DA's position on certain policies and issues ahead of the State of the Nation address.
State of the Nation address tomorrow to set out very clearly what the DA is doing to turn South Africa around, but also to explain how we are pushing the ANC government to do a lot more, a lot faster. The reality is that unless the government of national unity urgently implements policies that drive economic growth and enable job creation, South Africa will fail. The hopes, the livelihoods, the dreams, the aspirations, and the security of the South African people are on the line. And those are the stakes. And they are high stakes indeed. And that is why the Democratic Alliance took the decision to make growth and jobs our simple overriding objective within the government of national unity. And we are delivering this in the ministries that we run. In agriculture, I'm driving the growth and jobs agenda in 4 ways. Firstly, I'm reviewing and reforming legislation and regulation that is outdated or impedes the growth of the sector. Last year at the Forum on China-Africa Cooperation, protocols were signed to expand the trade in dairy and beef and wool protocols. And this is part of a concerted effort to ensure that we improve market access for South African agricultural products around the world. And that where possible, we deepen and expand existing trade agreements, but we also go on the hunt for new opportunities for South African products around the world. When our products make it to export markets, they create jobs and they help expand growth in the country. Just yesterday, I announced the reopening of the export of apples to Thailand, a sector that had been closed off to us for over 16 years. This market expansion is going to have profound implications for both growth and jobs. Ongoing efforts are underway to ensure that South Africa remains part of the African Growth and Opportunity Act, AGOA, which gives us preferential access to the United States market for not only manufactured goods, but also agricultural products and agro-processed products.
All right, you want to comment on what John Steenhuisen says? I'd like to get your thoughts on that. He continued, John Steenhuisen that is, he then talked about the work done, and this is important, by some of the DA ministers in the GNU.
Effectively as possible. On public works, our Public Works Minister, Dean McPherson, is turning South Africa into a construction site. he is using infrastructure and Infrastructure South Africa to pilot a number of new approaches to how we deal with critical infrastructure in 4 municipalities. And he intends to roll this program out to another 18 municipalities once the pilot is done. This is in line with his commitment to use public assets for public good, to use infrastructure as a vehicle for growth and opportunity in the country. He's fast-tracking 82 strategic integration projects with 437 billion rand, with a focus on transport, water, energy, and housing. He's also attracted hundreds of millions of rands in private sector interest to redevelop dilapidated government-owned buildings and properties, and intends to expand the program after the first round of 27 have been completed. This again is a move to ensure that public assets are used for public good. For far too long, government projects have failed to meet deadlines or have run severely over budget due to corruption and the involvement of the construction mafia. And as Minister McPherson has said very clearly,
I think what Donald Trump said, I think what Donald Trump said about this Gaza country to take it from their resident, I think his cabinet and his advisors must try to talk with him to recall that statement, because no one will ever trust him, especially in the world. It shows that he's selfless and selfish. Thank you.
I don't know about no one will ever trust him. There's so many people that does support Donald Trump, including, by the way, the majority of people who voted for him in that last election. That's one. And there are some significant world leaders who clearly back him for whatever reason. They do back him.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. The best word to describe the SONA is confident. Now the people are having confidence with Mr. Ramaphosa because what he's going to say is obvious, it's going to be implemented. Just like what has just happened about the Bella bills, the land without compensation, and some of the things that has just happened. I thank you. It's Jacob from Germiston.
All right, you raise an interesting point. You're saying, in fact, there's a lot of things that have happened in the last few months where the president has delivered in terms of turning bills into law. And here's an interesting thought, just by the way. For those who are critical of the GNU and critical of the ANC's alliance with the DA, and I'm not certainly backing for any one of them, one of the reasons for being critical is, like you see, the ANC will be completely consumed by the DA in terms of their policies, and that's just a complete no-no. If anything, they've learned to work together, but they're arguing every single week. And there are clear examples of these two of the dominant parties of the GNU effectively having separate policies and working side by side in spite of that, meaning there's no real evidence. And if you know more than I want to know, there's no real evidence of the DA, of the ANC, effectively relenting to the DA's position. Although some may talk about the position about the NHI that just come through just now, which maybe we get a chance to talk about just now. Right, another comment on that pupil stabbing issue that we touched on earlier on.
So Muzi is step dancing around the issue. Muzi, we need to search the kids. You guys need to do that at the gates. Don't tiptoe around it, please.
Well, Muzi may say another thing like, how much money does it all cost? Because, as you know, we have serious budget constraints in the country. So who's going to pay for all of that? I mean, it's just something for you to consider. One more word on Trump before we get to the news headlines.
Afternoon, Mr. Ashraf. Matuma Island Park Tembis. When talking about Donald Trump, that man is a mysterious person. You can't easily understand him. I don't know what's happening with him. Is he abnormal or normal individual, or what is happening about him? Thank you.
Well, he's always been that way for a while. Some may say unhinged. Is that the right word to describe him? 4:30, let's get the news headlines. Here's Zondela Mbana.
Thank you, Ashraf. In the news headlines day, leader Johnston Hazen has called for greater fiscal discipline when tackling government debt. Briefing the media earlier today in Cape Town ahead of tomorrow's State of the Nation address, Steenhuisen says rapid economic reform is needed to address the issue. Power entity SADC has switched off lights to some government entities for defaulting on payment arrangements of about 1.3 billion rands. And Germany says President Donald Trump's call for U.S. to seize control of Gaza and displace its entire population would lead to suffering and hatred. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Greg Hose.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Johannesburg, the R514 in Hartbeespoort has protest action reported at Sunway, so expect delays and diversions. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Bedfordview has a crash reported near Van Buren Road, and the N12 westbound in Lenasia has heavy traffic reported towards the R558 Protea Glen exit. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle before the M41 Gateway exit, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound queuing towards Racecourse Road exit. Chapman's Peak Drive is closed until 5 p.m. for alien vegetation clearing, and the N1 inbound has a police incident reported before Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Okay, Zai, what are we talking about now?
Your favorite tournament, apart from paddle.
Which is
I
what?
mean, the
Oh my
SA20.
Who said it's my favorite tournament?
Well-
My favorite social activity in sport is watching my lousy Manchester United lose every week. But anyway,
Oh, yeah, let's not
but
go.
but I do like cricket.
Yes, I know you do, Asha. But listen, me tell you, this is going to be an exciting one. It's do or die because even though at 40, Faf du Plessis has still got it going. So tonight, the Joburg Super Kings and the Sunrisers Eastern Cape will battle it out in the SA20 Eliminator in Centurion. Faf du Plessis Super Kings are running on fumes. They've got multiple injury, while Aiden Markram Sunrisers are struggling to find big scores. The winner will move on to face the Paarl Royals for a spot in the final against MI Cape Town. More cricket. It's a fresh look for the Proteas as they head into the Tri-Nation Series against Pakistan and New Zealand with key SA20 players unavailable. Coach Rob Walter has called up 6 uncapped players, including Matthew Britzker and Mikhail Prince. They'll be showcasing their talent. Fast bowler Gerald Coetzee ruled out due to injury. He won't be considered now for the Champions Trophy. The first match of the series sees South Africa face New Zealand in Lahore with Themba Bavuma leading the squad. Soccer news. Mamelodi Sundowns right back Keegan Johannes ready to earn his spot in the starting lineup now that his injury woes are behind him. Sundowns return to action against SuperSport United, and Johannes shares his thoughts as he could potentially get a run against his former club.
So far, obviously, my stay at the club has been magnificent. I think, obviously, coming into the team, obviously with injury and stuff, there has been a bit of a mental side that I had to obviously get over. But now, seeing that I'm fit and getting back into match fitness and all of that, it's obviously takes time, and obviously with the bunch of great players that we have, we can only get better, and I can only grow as an individual and as a footballer.
More soccer. Sekhukhune United influential midfielder Linda Mtambo says football and sports personalities have a big role to play in fighting gender-based violence in South Africa. GBV, including rape, domestic abuse and femicide, is a serious issue in the country, which is known for having one of the highest rates of such crimes in the world. Mtambo is part of the hashtag No Excuse campaign, says footballers being role models in the community have the power to influence society.
Where we are, Ngempilo, where people celebrate us, to us, I'm a celebrity, where young ones look up to us, and even older ones, in how we move. I think we should be using our voice to help change society, to help make a world a better place. And that's where we are as Ulinda, partnering with the No Excuse, and just putting a stop into gender-based violence, into abusing our women and children, and just helping create, better role models in the future. Teenage young adults, and the next generation, so that in the near future, this could be put to bed. Change society, how things are actually done.
Tennis action. The former world number 1 and 2-time Grand Slam winner Simona Halep announced her retirement from professional tennis after losing the first round at a home event in Cluj. Halep, whose career stalled due to a doping ban that was reduced on appeal last year, lost 6-1, 6-1 to Italy's Lucia Bronzetti. In the men's draw, we've got Ben Shelton making quite a start to the ATP Dallas Open. He ousted Alexander Fukic 6-3, 6-3. The second seed Casper Ruud survived a test from Australia's James Duckworth, advancing to the round of 16. Another match saw Britain's Cameron Norrie recording his first win of 2025 at the Dallas Open against the 7th seed Alex Mitchelson 2-6, 7-6, 6-1. And finally, the top seed and defending champion Elena Rybakina made it through to the quarterfinals of the WTA 500 Abu Dhabi Open in the UAE, but she was given a bit of a scare by the American qualifier Katie Volnets to seal a 2-6, 6-4, 6-4 victory. She'll face either Tunisia's Ons Jabeur or Wanaka Sonobe of Japan in the last 8. And that's the last one for now.
I just want to ask you this. I mean, I saw it's on the ICC, I think it is, Wisden account, so Twitter account, and Ricky Ponting, the former Australian legend, right, great cricket player and captain, has chosen one player for him. He said he's the greatest cricketer ever. Did you see that?
No.
Okay.
What is Ricky Ponting saying?
He gave his name. He said his name is something like Jacques Kallis or something like that.
The great Jacques Kallis.
The greatest cricketer ever, Jacques Kallis.
What?
Now, I'm not saying he's right, but it comes from Ricky Ponting.
The Ricky Ponting.
Yeah.
From an Aussie.
It's like in politics. If Trump says something about you, you listen. Like Ricky Ponting says Jacques Kallis the greatest. As a batsman, averaging about 55, and a bowler 35.
It was a fantastic.
And very few have those numbers. It's quite phenomenal.
All-rounder of note, Jacques Kallis. Anyway, that's a wrap for now. More sport, top of the hour.
I wonder if others agree. Is he the greatest cricketer ever? You tell me.
In the Arena is a docu-series that takes an in-depth look at the life and career of the legendary tennis player Serena Williams, offering a behind-the-scenes glimpse into her journey, both on and off the court. It explores her rise to tennis dominance, challenges, and personal experiences. Do not miss out on a great story of incredible impact. Catch In the Arena on Saturdays at 3 p.m. on SABC3. Alternatively at 9 p.m. on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 on Saturdays and Thursdays. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m., bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to the numbers now with Paswana Mpatlele, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Paswana, good to connect, right? Local and global in a moment, but there's news from Cecil.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and to your listeners. Yes, Cecil came up with that trading update for the 6-month ending December. Not surprising, the guys expect profits to decline as per headline earnings per share by most 86%, and this is due to the lower oil prices around 13%, refining margins, and lower production volumes. They highlighted down 5%. These external factors were challenging. They prevailed. However, they managed to risk manage this through cost controls and realizing higher chemical prices, but it didn't do much to offset their losses. And the stock is reflecting that currently now in the negative. Looking at the markets, the World Bank came came up with an update on our growth rate, up 1.8% at the back of those energy availability and logistics improving, which would enable business growth. But we haven't realized this as yet, because when you look at the update around private sector business activity, it was in contraction for a second month as client demand is weak. In the service sector, mostly businesses output is down, which but more on the global scale, markets are concerned more around the US and China trade war and added concerns of the geopolitical tensions, with Trump signaling the need to take up the Gaza Strip. And now this is looking at a global growth that is in a fragile state. And we say this when looking at the kind of the pricing we're seeing. We're seeing yields are getting lower. Dollar is below that 108, triggering a bearish play out. Concerns further prevail in the commodity sector. We're seeing oil down 1.3% at $75.13 a barrel. Gold is likening this type of environment of uncertainty, continuing to do all-time highs, currently eased to $2,864 an ounce. And this move supports the rand and risk buying, but we've lost momentum with the US coming up to on open. JSE is currently flat, supported by our resource sector up 0.8. Industrials were flat. Financials were down 0.2. Europe, FTSE was up 0.3, rebound. DAX up 0.1, CAC is down 0.2. US open weak on those tech earning forecasts. We see that Nasdaq is down 0.6, S&P down 0.2, and Dow flat. Looking at the rand, we're relatively strong against the dollar today at 1861, while flat against the euro at 1939 and 23.30 against the pound.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Paswane. We will connect again tomorrow.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, we spoke about it last week. Big discussion around minimum wage and what all that means and whether that should be adjusted and whether they should have a minimum wage or not. Now, we now have a statement from Thobeka Makhaya, who's the minister's spokesperson, or the ministry spokesperson for the Department of Employment and Labour. And this is after confirmation of the adjustment of the national minimum wage to 28 Rand 79 cents per hour.
The Minister of the Department of Employment and Labour, Ms. Nomakosazana Meth, has announced an upward adjustment of the national minimum wage rates for 2025 from 27 Rand 58 to 28 Rand 79 cents for each ordinary hour worked. South Africa introduced the implementation of the National Minimum Wage Act in 2019. In terms of the policy instrument, this obligates employers to pay workers a minimum amount per hour. The national minimum wage is subject to annual review and increases annually from 1 March. Application of the national minimum wage. The National Minimum Wage Amendment is enforced by law and binding from 1 March 2025. Violations of the Act are subject to fines. The national minimum wage determination includes vulnerable sectors such as farm workers and domestic workers whom from 2022 were aligned with the national minimum wage rates. The national minimum wage is the minimum amount of pay that an employer is legally required to remunerate employees for work done. No employee should be paid below the national minimum wage. The 4.2% increase shall apply to all workers. The national minimum wage cannot be varied by contract, collective agreement, or law. It is also an unfair labor practice for an employer to unilaterally alter work hours or other conditions of employment in implementing the national minimum wage. Exceptions to the application of the national minimum wage. However, because of special dispensation under which they are hired, workers employed on expanded public works program are entitled to a minimum wage increase of 15 Rand 83 from 15 Rand 16 cents per hour. Those who have concluded learnership agreements as contemplated in Section 17 of the Skills Development Act of 1998 are entitled to the allowances as determined in the latest Government Gazette schedule, and these will be published in the department's website, www.labour.gov.za.
Right, so there we are, minimum wage 28 Rand 79. We'll talk about the state of readiness of the State of the Nation address next.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so there's naturally huge expectation from all of us, but what about those people in Cape Town now? Now earlier today, Parliament's presiding officers, led by the Speaker of the National Assembly, Toko Didiza, and the Chairperson of the National Council of Provinces, and that's Refilwe Mchebweni Tsipani, addressed the media on the state of readiness to host the 2025 State of the Nation address. The SABC News journalist Abongwe Kobakwane was at the briefing, so let's find out more exactly what happened there. Abongwe, thanks for connecting with us here on the National Pulse.
Likewise, Ashraf.
Yeah, so what's it like, a state of expectation ahead of the big day tomorrow?
Well, what came clear, Ashraf, and the listeners, was that the presiding officers, they were actually saying that it is all system goes for the SONA, that is for tomorrow, 2025. And then you'll understand that the SONA or the address by the president is done under the GNU. That will be for the first time. So he has the presiding officers, they have mentioned that all the actual ritual ceremonial or pomp and ceremonials that are normally done, you know, the participation of the military and the invites of the dignitaries and eminent person will happen, and the bands that are normally come and other brand music that normally come, they will all be actually be participating for tomorrow. So they are saying that Parliament is ready for that, and the venue actually is the official city of Cape Town Hall, like it was last time since the burning of Parliament. So in essence, so to speak, Ashraf, is that they were telling us that Parliament is ready for tomorrow.
Okay, were there any peculiarities, as you mentioned, in still being held at the City Hall and not at Houses of Parliament, as we'd expect one day soon, right? Any other interesting things came up in the briefing?
Well, the other stuff that we have mentioned, Ashraf, was that maybe one of them is the fact that I think just ahead of the SONA tomorrow, some of the political parties, especially in particular the DA in Parliament, the chief of the DA, George Malakesi, requested the Speaker for to reduce the number of, in what they call scaling down, the number of the members of the South African Defence Force who will be actually participating, and other pomp ceremony that are related to SANDF. And they were saying that it needs to be done in order to give honor or tribute to the South African, or 14 South African soldiers who died in DRC in that war that is happening there. And then we requested to know if that they have heeded that call as Parliament, and the answer was that, look, the issues of SANDF really are not in the scope of Parliament. They depend to the President as the Commander-in-Chief. But what the Speaker of the National Assembly, Toko Didiza, said was that immediately when they received that message, they then communicated that to the President, and then it's up to them to decide. And one of the issues that came out was that the ceremony is being sponsored, so to speak, is contributed by the business sector. That they will be providing some assistance, and I hope what she meant, even not in her words, was that some financial support in terms of other stuff that will be necessary. This is part of their partnership now they are working with in this regard.
Okay, and lastly, as often happens here, you have former presidents there, and sometimes you have foreign dignitaries. Did that come up in terms of the who's going to be there?
Yes, that's a good question, Ashraf. In terms of the dignitaries, the presiding officers confirmed that all of them, including their deputies, including the former speakers and the chairperson of the NCOP, they've confirmed that they will be here, and other dignitaries outside from Parliament, for instance, a delegation from the European Union, I think is a former one of those delegations that will be coming as well. They've confirmed that. Another stuff that was alluded to was that when we ask questions in terms of, you remember in the past, Parliament has experienced a lot of disruptions, and then we then ask if are there any sort of measures that Parliament has put in place to prevent such occurrences if they do happen tomorrow? And then the answer was that, look, if that happens, they will use the current rules or invoke the current rules of Parliament to deal with such occurrences if it happens tomorrow.
Okay, that's where we leave it. It's going to be a busy time for you today, tomorrow. I'm sure about that. Abongwe Kobakwane, thank you for your time. The SABC News reporter covering that story of the State of the Nation address. I'll get your thoughts on the State of the Nation address, your one word, and other things too, right after this.
Our story is a South African story.
Anchored in the belief that it takes all of us to build a country that thrives.
To educate our children for a brighter future. To care for our health and well-being.
To nurture our environment to sustain future generations. And to transform and build a stronger nation.
When no one is left behind. Inspiring each other to succeed. Anglo-American.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, lots of people have lots of things to say, and you know what? We're going to listen to what you have to say. Butana in Rosebank, you first up. Let's get your thoughts on Donald Trump.
Good afternoon, my brother.
Good afternoon.
The American voted criminal into the White House, and now the criminal is doing what is doing best, committing crime. And remember, in the judges in America, they didn't punish him. You know, he's asking the question, why will Palestinians return to Gaza when it is hell? Who created that hell? The person that was standing next to him. That stands next to him. He's the one that split Gaza. He pretended not knowing that. They are so cruel. They are so violent. And they are applying the same cruel actions that they are applying to South Africa 40 years ago.
But can I ask you something? I mean, you've said lots of things. Let's just move on to the big issue of yesterday, where he said that he would want to take over Gaza. What do you make of that?
That's a land grab. That's a land grab.
Okay.
It's a crime. That's a land grab. That's the same thing that was complaining against Ramaphosa. The same thing is complaining about it.
Okay, got that. Land grab, says Butana in Kimberley. Butana in Rosebank. Denzel in Kimberley, go for it.
Mr. Ashraf.
Yeah.
Ashraf, my one word will be timelines regarding the NPA. Ramaphosa must tell us by April we have 30 investigators and they're going to do what. My second point is Africa Forum is busy testing the waters, Ashraf. They've been doing that for some time now. But this time they've pushed too far. They must appear before Parliament. They must account so that we know what they are actually negotiating with Donald Trump or Elon Musk. Trump is a giver, but there's something in it for him. Like this Gaza thing. He had a meeting with the president of Israel. the next thing, like Butana said, it's a land grab. So, Ashraf, we were very critical of the ANC when they secretly discussed this nuclear deals with Russia. So we must do the same thing with AfriForum. Their actions are very unpatriotic, and they must apologize. They must come before Parliament so that we can exactly know what are they doing, what are they busy dealing with Trump.
Well, I wonder, okay, I hear you. They must come to Parliament and being charged with what? They won't appear before Parliament without being charged of anything. Denzel in Kimberley, someone said, I think Herman Mashaba said they, didn't say unpatriotic, he said they're treasonous. Can they be charged for treason? I don't think so. There's an actual attempt to overthrow the government. What I'm trying to say is, opinion and rebel rousing is very different from an actual plan to overthrow the state, really. Right, we have more thoughts. Pindile in the Eastern Cape, let's get your thoughts. Pindile, hi.
Hi, Ashraf.
Yeah, good talking to you.
I want to talk about the capturing of state properties, especially in the Eastern Cape, belonging to the Department of Public Works.
Right.
I have been investigating this for the last 12, 13 months. And I've reported this to the Minister. I've reported it to the DM. I've reported it to the Premier. We've got proof of everything that we said about. Now, the Minister has come on national TV and on national news and he said that the Department of Public Works has lost more than 300 million rand on it doesn't know, forensic is investigating. But we have reported the fact that there are properties that have been sold by his own employees, and I've named them, I've got proof of that, to foreign nationals here in the Eastern Cape for millions of rand. Why didn't they go and pursue this investigation? How long will it take for them to get to the root of it and to apprehend this? I've even reported this to DPCI and to the SIU. But nothing comes out. They must come as complainants and say, listen, we want this to be investigated. They do nothing about it.
Well, there's many examples of doing nothing. So I hear you, and let's see if anybody responds to that, Pindile, because maybe somebody knows more than you and I together. Thank you for that in raising that issue. Let's move on to the Midrand region now. That's between Joburg and Pretoria. Sintu, let's talk about the Sona. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, good indeed. Go for it. What's your point?
I'm fine. No, man, I'm confused, man. Maybe you can be able to clarify me, man. Is DA not part of the government of national unity? If yes, why will they have their own pre-state of the nation address? Is it what is going to be delivered by the president, not discussed at the cabinet Lukhutla? You see, these are some of the things that are confusing from me. And secondly, when it comes to questions and answers from the president, what is the DA going to say? Because they are part of this implementation of what the ANC-led government or ANC president is going to deliver tomorrow. Please clarify me on that one.
Well, I think if you're asking me, I think political parties are in a new era at the moment. They're part of government and they still want to assert their own, what's that word? Their own uniqueness. And I think in this case, that's exactly what the DA is doing, to show that their point of differentiation, that we together, but actually don't forget about us. That's what I think they're doing.
But it doesn't make any sense to me, because they were part of the cabinet Lekgotla. Everything that is going to be delivered by the president was discussed there, then they agreed. Yes, it was. This is the state of the nation that was presented even the cabinet Lekgotla.
Okay, got that. Thanks for that, Sintu. Let's get further thoughts on some of the other issues. Lots of one-worders about the Sona.
Hello, Ashraf. In one word, that's Muvango. Sam Kutasi.
What's your one word? I'm not sure if I heard that one word that you said. Let's see if I can pick it up again. No.
Hello, Ashraf. In one word, that's Muvango.
Oh, I see. Is that what you said? Muvango. Okay, got that. Right. Here's another, before we get to the news, on another one on Sona, predictably so.
Hi, Ashraf. It's Harvey from Shawela. My one word is predictable.
What is so predictable? That's like the most unpredictable response I heard from anybody, because I don't know what you mean about, is the state of the nation predictable? That's what you're saying. It's predictable. No, man. What is the state of our country right now? That is what we mean. What is the state of the nation? Keep the one-worders coming. Just one word. And the best way there is via WhatsApp. 0614-104-107, the voice note or a text message, but you can also tweet it out, right? Just hashtag the National Pulse and then tag SAFM Radio and myself. Let's get to Greg House here with the news at 5.
Thank you, Ashraf. A call for rapid economic reform and more opposition to Trump's Gaza plans. Good day to you. The DA leader John Steenhuisen has called for greater fiscal discipline when tackling government debt. Briefing the media ahead of tomorrow's State of the Nation address, he says rapid economic reform is needed to address the issue.
We have compelled the President to announce reforms during a State of the Nation address, and we want to see these things within the SONA. We believe that we need greater fiscal discipline and debt management. The money we have to spend paying for our debt as a country is reducing and crowding out the money that we need for the essential services, and currently consumes a full 21% of the budget.
The official ceremonial proceedings in Parliament for the State of the Nation address will retain their full status. That's according to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Toka Didiza, despite requests by some political parties for the Speaker to give honour to the fallen soldiers in the DRC by reducing the military participation in the event. However, Didiza says such a decision falls under the scope of the President as the Commander-in-Chief.
SONA proceedings will retain a full ceremonial format, including a 21-gun salute, a nightclub fire past, a ceremonial guard, the singing of the national anthem, a full military band, and procession involving provincial speakers and premiers, the judiciary, the deputy president, and the president.
Power entity Centlec has switched off the lights to some government entities in the Free State for defaulting on payment arrangements of about 1.3 billion rand. Musa Masemene is from the Provincial Department of Public Works.
This financial year alone, we had budgeted around 402 million. And today we have paid 296. That's the best that we can do, unfortunately. And as I've indicated, these are municipal services for the entire Free State, including Centlec. So that's basically where we are.
The Deputy Sports Minister, Peace Mabe, has requested learners who are active in school sport not to be discouraged following the death of a learner from Krugersdorp High School, west of Johannesburg, who sustained injuries during a cricket match. Rechegofetse Senelo died in hospital after colliding with another learner during a cricket match in Boksburg. The Deputy Minister visited the school.
We encourage school sports, and that we need to alleviate the fear. You know, young people will be afraid to go and participate in sports and say, what if you lose your life? It was an accident. And also the other player, we wish him strength and a speedy recovery. We have learned that he has also sustained injuries. So I'm here to give moral support to all young sports playing children in South Africa to say anything can happen anyway. Do not despair. Keep on going. What has happened, it is a shock indeed, it is sad, but we're not going to quit sport because of we are being afraid of accidents.
Minor family spokesperson Joe Mabuyela says a memorial service will be held tomorrow at Krugersdorp High School and the funeral will take place on Saturday in Kagiso.
The results of the post-mortem are out, but they're with the police at this stage and they will call us. But on face value, what we can say at this stage is that he had a liver and a spleen rupture. And that caused a lot of excessive bleeding inside his chest. Remember that in cases like this, an inquest docket is open, and then the investigating officer is the one that's gonna then call us, to sit us down and go through that with us. On and off for them, that could be after the film.
Germany says a call by the US President Donald Trump for the US to seize control of Gaza and displace its entire population would lead to suffering and hatred. France has also been strongly critical, saying the proposal would be a grave violation of international law. French government spokesperson Sophie Prima.
Je veux réitérer ici le fait que la France est...
I want to reiterate here the fact that France is fully opposed to the displacement of populations. It is an issue of imbalance in the Middle East, obviously, which is contrary to the two-state solution that we have been advocating for years. I would add that the statements are probably dangerous for stability and for the peace process that is underway.
The top story, the DA leaders called for greater fiscal discipline when tackling government debt. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Khus.
Welcome to your sports, and what's making headlines at the moment, it is none other than Dricus du Plessis, as he's set to take on Sean Strickland. That's UFC 312. And we've also got South Africa's Brad Binder. He returns to the track as MotoGP pre-season testing kicks off in Malaysia. All the details around 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Johannesburg, the R514 in Hartbeespoort has protest action reported at Sunway, so expect delays and diversions. The M1 southbound in central Johannesburg is slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 southbound in Bedfordview has a crash reported near Van Buren Road, and the N12 westbound in Lenasia has heavy traffic reported towards the R558 Protea Glen exit. In KZN, the N2 northbound has a stationary vehicle before the M41 Gateway exit, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound queuing towards Racecourse Road exit. Chapman's Peak Drive is closed until 5 p.m. for alien vegetation clearing, and the N1 inbound has a police incident reported before Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m. bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
In fact, I've been asking you to give me one word to describe the state of the nation ahead of tomorrow's State of the Nation address. So that's just the address, but what is the actual state of the nation? So here's one that's interesting. A person's done two words. Okay, I'll give you that license to do that. It says the one positive word is hope and the one negative word is disaster. So how do you straddle between hope and disaster in one sitting in describing the state of the nation? I tell you what, with that in mind, let's just then reflect on some of the issues that have developed around the state of the nation. We're going to talk about that. We'll also later on pick up on some of the issues that we wanted to talk about earlier. Well, in fact, we will. The mining in Daba has been ongoing, and we'll chat to a representative from the DRC about some fantastic work that they're doing in that region that we need to just cover. I think it's very, very interesting in terms of what they're planning, what they've already done, and what they're planning to do around mining in the country and around the impact that it's having, in fact, around the world. But let's first up start by reflecting what's happened in the presidency. The presidential spokesperson is Vincent Magwenya, and he gave an update in Parliament on President Ramaphosa's program and also addressed recent developments, so all very current affairs here. So we picked out some important points that was said. First up, Magwenya starts by rejecting assertions that President Ramaphosa deployed the SANDF in the DRC to protect his business interests.
Go back to Paul. Paul, when
when was the first time South Africa had a presence of troops in the DRC? If my counting is correct, it's been 20 years now. It began through our contribution to the UN peacekeeping force in the DRC, and that was during the later years of the Mandela administration, if you'll recall. That's how far back? 23 years, correct. And so to reduce such a long commitment to the attainment of peace in the DRC, in our continent, to the protection of mining interest, is completely devoid of any truth, and it lacks the knowledge and the appreciation of South Africa's role in ensuring peacekeeping or ensuring the stability of our continent. We've been involved in over 20 peacekeeping initiatives on the continent. The latest being Mozambique, where last year we began a phase withdrawal. We were part of a SADC peacekeeping force there. There were never any accusations of our involvement there being directed at the protection of any economic interest. We were there as part of a SADC mandated peacekeeping force to protect lives and to ensure stability in our neighboring country. And so we will reject those assertions because they also are devoid of any facts, but more disappointingly, they just lack the appreciation of South Africa's long involvement in ensuring that we enjoy a greater deal of stability and peace on our continent in pursuit of economic development, amongst other things.
Okay, but there's more. I think what's very topical is the relationship between South Africa and the USA. And this is what Vincent Mangwenya said.
Between Elon and the president, as well as President Trump, look, Baba, the US is our second largest trading partner. We have a long-standing strategic, political, trade, as well as cultural relationship. And it's a relationship that we respect. It's a relationship that has always been mutually beneficial, and it will continue being mutually beneficial. Therefore, where there are bumps, as we have recently experienced, it will always be in our interest to engage with various role players within the leadership of the country, but also broadly in society in the US. Year before last, the president held a roundtable with American captains of industry. A large number of them represented over 600 US companies that operate in South Africa. And the engagements touched on a number of issues that impact business in South Africa, but also opportunities that are ripe for investment in our country. And therefore, considering all of those elements, it is important that we work on maintaining that relationship, but also we work on growing and expanding that relationship. And so we will get over the current bumps, we will clarify the issues that need to be clarified, and we will respond expeditiously to disinformation and mischaracterization of our laws, as well as of the general state of the country. And in so doing, we will engage all the relevant stakeholders, and we will communicate our position publicly as we've done. So,
right, and there's more. The spokesperson, the presidency spokesperson, then explained this big issue. You know, Donald Trump speaking to Elon Musk. I see many people, including Julius Malema, besides others, being very critical. Like, why would he even need to do that? Well, he did it anyway. Gave him a call after some of the comments from Elon Musk. So here's the explanation.
why did the president speak to Elon Musk? Following President Trump's announcement, we issued a statement which was posted on X out of the president's handle as well as the presidency handle. There was a response to that statement by Elon, and generally we were obviously perturbed by the substance of the announcement because there were clearly inaccuracies with respect to the reflection of the country and what was happening in the country. The X platform is a hugely influential platform. It's owned by Elon Musk. The president has held engagements prior to this announcement with Elon Musk with the intention to see him invest more in South Africa. His particular interest was around Starlink, as well as the sort of regulatory environment that regulates that sector. So we've had open engagements with Elon Musk. So in light of this recent development, it was sensible and logical and quite important that the president engages with him so that we reinforce his own understanding of what is happening in South Africa, and we flag our concern with respect to the disinformation that we saw in the announcement by President Trump, but also in his own response to our statement. The president was quite emphatic in saying South Africa does not have racist ownership laws. All our laws take their cue from our constitution. And where they do not meet constitutional muster, we have an independent judiciary that deals with those issues without any political interference whatsoever. And these are South Africa's strengths.
So that is the voice of the spokesperson for the presidency, Vincent Mangwenya. In fact, did I say earlier on that Donald Trump spoke to Elon Musk? In fact, it was, of course, President Ramaphosa who spoke to Elon Musk. Right, we're going to talk about the Lily Mine tragedy, reflecting 9 years later.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
So today marks the 9th anniversary of the Lily Mine tragedy. Can you believe it? 9 years ago. A tragedy that left Pretty Nkambule, Yvonne Menisi and Solomon Nyarenda trapped underground when the mine collapsed. The three had been in a container used as a lamp room at the time, remember? So there was this commemoration event today at the mine in Barberton in Mpumalanga. Let's find out more about what happened with Harry Mazibuko, the Lily Mine tragedy victims' family spokesperson. Harry, appreciate your time on this day. I think that is hugely emotional for the family.
Yes, emotionally and exhausted because we didn't sleep. However, we really much appreciate the fact for the story to be told, to revive hope and to alert South Africans where are we to date.
Well, I mean, you talked about the story being revived. Just if you can very briefly tell us what happened then, 9 years ago.
Yes, 5 February 2016, to us as workers, because I was working at the very same mine, it was a normal day, not knowing what lies ahead. And it was a fortunate date because usually by this time around 8 o'clock, the people who are working underground, the employees, they used to be seated there at the lamp room waiting for the so-called shift clearance. But fortunately on that date, they went underground earlier. So that's the fortunate part of it. So it's the day that changes our life completely till to date, because we are sitting there, the mountains, without closure, without any justice. We're still fighting, we're still voicing out our frustration, but no assistance where we expected from our government.
So what happened today? I mean, who was there? Who said things? What was the response from the public who were present there?
Yes, fortunately, the public, I wasn't able to count to estimate numbers, but it was quite bigger than all the years because we're expecting the former state president, Jacob Zuma, unfortunately dedicated advocate Mkhwebane to represent him. So there was a president for OWAT and the president of SACTPP. So those are the ones, including others dignitaries, including the investing company, SSC.
Okay. And what were were there protests that took place today, highlighting what happened 9 years ago?
No, there wasn't a protest, but usually on the 5th of February or any other day where we are going to deliberate on progress, there's gangsterism involved in the whole thing. But I don't know, maybe the law enforcement, but again, unfortunately, for the past 6 years, we've been experiencing such because the road has been blocked. That we cannot commemorate you for pretend Solomon. So we remain with the thousands of questions without answers. Okay. But it shows that there is somebody or a certain force that is behind our progress.
All right. And very quickly, just to end up, I understand that, again, there were parents concerned about political parties effectively using, being there as part of opportunism and nothing else. Just your quick thoughts to that?
Yes, this is it's not a thought. According to my understanding, this is a political issue. It doesn't need a mathematical solution. It needs a political solution. That's what the president of Action SA mentioned, and I'm in full support of that because our leaders in government, South Africa were subjected to a democratic system whereby the majority elect their leaders. In government, including the minister, has been elected by the people. Okay. So it's a political issue.
And that's where we're going to leave it. Harry Mazibuko, the Lily Mine Tragedies Victims Family spokesperson.
Action is getting tougher in the second half of the league. The Folks want to ease off pressure with a win, but the Eagles aim to fly with 3 points to remain in the top 5. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch Borussia Mönchengladbach FC versus Eintracht Frankfurt FC on Saturday, 8 February at 7:30 p.m. live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4. Also available everywhere for everyone, always on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Market Update, Monday to Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m.
Want to stay ahead of the financial game? Join us tonight from 6 to 7 p.m. for an insightful journey through the day's market developments, financial updates, and investment news. Tune in for your daily dose of financial intelligence as we navigate the twists and turns of the financial landscape with expert insights. Only on the SAFM Market Update.
SAFM Market Update with Jimmy Muyaha.
So, planning a romantic getaway? Make sure you've got low-cost insurance for your older car. Without Insurance Essential, you can get up to 1 million rand liability cover. So if you cause an accident, the other car could be covered for up to 1 million rands. Now you can add motor warranty, which covers you for mechanical or electrical breakdowns as well. So get saving without Insurance Essential for unfinanced cars older than 5 years and valued at less than 130,000 rands. If you key in SMS car to 43187, that's car 43187. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's are available and information online.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so lots of conversations around the mining in Durban that's been taking place in Cape Town all week, in fact. So here's an interesting, a very different take to the norm, right? While many leave the DRC and the African continent in search of other opportunities and never come back, right? Shanti Shiela Biart Mtombo returned. Now, her belief in the DRC's potential to thrive inspired her decision to build a business in a sector facing challenges but rich with possibilities for growth and transformation. So with all, let's talk to my guest, Shanti Shiela Biart Mtombo, champions courage, hope and transformation in the mining sector at this Indawa. Shanti, I appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting here on the National Pulse. Shanti, hello.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. You seem to have a
Hi, good evening.
Right, you have a very interesting story. So why are you here? Obviously, you're presenting, right, at the Mining Indaba. What's your pitch to that audience? Shanti,
I am here, obviously. I can hear you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm here, obviously, as a Mining Indaba because one of the reasons is the mining event of the year. Because, as you know, the mining industry has been a cornerstone of global economic development for centuries. And historically, it has driven industrialization, infrastructure development, and so many more technological advancements in our current generation. Being myself from the DRC, a country that is rich in minerals, I had decided many years ago to return to the DRC and launch in business and focus in the mining contracting sector.
Mm-hmm.
Being South African raised, it's like my second home actually because I was raised here. A country that's also mineral rich. And Africa, is obviously it has the capacity to significantly drive national economies, and we are one of the companies that benefits from this empowerment that mining companies can create around the sector.
So tell us more about what is it you actually do. I mean, I think obviously mining is important, minerals are critical. What exactly did you, and very important, how do you deliver to market?
Sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you. Please do repeat the question.
I was saying, what exactly do you do in that space, in the mining and in the mineral space, and how then do you deliver to market? Meaning, who's your market?
Right, so we are the supply and the distribution in the DRC. The mining chemicals used in transportation of the minerals. We supply to companies such as Kamoa, is in a way one of the biggest in the world actually, that has an operation in Kolwezi, Kamoa Copper.
I see. I mean, you've been quoted as saying, Africa's raw materials are a powerful resource for change. And if we process these materials locally, we can create industries that drive sustainable developments and offer long-term benefits to our people. So that's an important point. The question is, to what level is the continent falling short in delivering to what you see as this powerful resource for change?
I'm going to ask you to please repeat the question. To what level is?
What I'm asking, to what level is the African continent delivering to what you talk about, as a powerful resource for change? That means raw materials as a resource for change. To what level are we delivering and how are we falling short? I think we're just having a bad connection between We're going to have to leave it at that, unfortunately, with Shanti Chielo Bayard Mutombo, champions courage, hope and transformation in the mining sector. She's been delivering a talk here at the Mining Indaba 2025 in Cape Town. Apology for cutting that short. We just could not hear each other, I think, at the very end. Right, but a couple of more comments about, and lots of people commenting about the SONA, understandably.
Good evening, Ashraf, and good evening to everyone listening. With the SONA, I'm sure the reason why people are saying it's predictable is because nothing that Matamela is going to say will have changed. If you look at his previous sonas and this one will just have GNU, Palestine, Israel, Rwanda, that's it. But in everything, they're just all the same sonas.
So that's one, and there's certainly more. And of course, I've asked you to give us your one word which reflects the state of the nation today, not what Ramaphosa is going to say tomorrow. What reflects the state of the nation today?
Good day, Ashraf. Ashraf, on the debacle of the SONA, I hope the president is coming with good news, because 2024 was a hard year for every South African financially. I hope he's really coming with good news this time. This comes from Terence.
I wonder what would be the good news, like what would be good news for you, isn't it?
Hi, Ashraf. One word for me, it's complex.
And I think Cyril Ramaphosa is the right man to lead that complexity. Lebohang in KZN. Thank you.
Complex and a president who can lead that complexity. Here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. What about one word to describe Trump? And that word would be a demagogue. Thank you, Naren Singh.
A demagogue. It's a long time since I last heard that word, demagogue, right? But I mean, go for it. One word to describe Trump. You want to do that as well? You can certainly go ahead and do it. But feel free to call in, because as you know, nowadays we, 10 to 4, 10 to 3, 10 to 4, and then quarter to 6 upwards, we take a whole lot of calls and we want to increase that audience engagement. So what is it that you would like to get off your chest? Basically, what moves the national pulse? Let's get the news headlines. Here's Greg House.
In the headlines, as South Africa's chairing the G20, President Ramaphosa hopes that US President Donald Trump will visit the country so he can engage him on various issues. The DA leader, John Steenhuisen, called for greater fiscal discipline when tackling government debt. And a US military aircraft deporting more than 100 unauthorized Indian nationals from the US has landed in India. A full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the R514 in Hartbeespoort has protest action reported at Sunway, so expect delays and diversions. The N3 southbound in Edenvale is queuing towards Modderfontein Road, and the N1 southbound in Pretoria has a stationary truck reported near Rigel Avenue. In KZN, Umgeni Road northbound is slow moving at Simiso and Kwaniano Road, the M7 westbound queuing at Bel Air Wakesley Road Junction, and the M13 eastbound in Hillcrest has a crash reported at Gillets. In Cape Town, the M5 southbound queuing towards Racecourse Road exit, the M7 Jakes Hadwell Drive southbound queuing towards the R300 highway, and the N1 outbound is slow moving towards Okavango Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Right, so Zai, let's see. I'm trying to see what we're going to talk about. Well, Driekes, is that right?
It's Driekes!
I don't know when else I heard that name. Okay, go ahead.
Listen, it's going to be a fight like you never know. It's they're going to do a lot of mind games and talk a lot of nonsense before throwing the punches. But we are building up to South Africa's UFC champion, Dricus du Plessis, set to defend his middleweight title against Sean Strickland this Sunday at UFC 312 in Sydney, Australia. Du Plessis, known for his unpredictable, explosive striking, faces Strickland's methodical pressure. The two, as you know, fought before, with Dricus winning a razor-close split decision. Now Strickland wants revenge, but the South African has different plans that involve knockouts and another belt defense. Let's go to cricket. It's all on the line tonight at the Joburg Super Kings and Sunrisers Eastern Cape meet. They'll be battling it out in the SA20 Eliminator in Centurion as we speak. Faf du Plessis Super Kings are running on fumes after multiple injuries, while Aiden Markram Sunrisers are struggling to find big scores. The winner will move on to face the Paarl Royals for a spot in the final against MI Cape Town. Let's go to the Sekhukhune United influential midfielder Linda Mtambo, saying football and sports personalities have a big role to play in fighting gender-based violence in South Africa. Some professional footballers in the country have themselves been accused and even charged of GBV. Mtambo believes footballers and clubs have a responsibility to stand up and be counted in the fight against GBV.
For me, I think I'm happy, to be here because the values that, Excuse hold are the same values that I hold, are the same values that my club, Sekhukhune United, hold. So everything aligns. So it is just, using my voice for something bigger than Linda Mtambo, something bigger than Yoni No Excuse, something bigger than Sekhukhune United. It is wanting to change and, change how we see our society and wanting to make it a better place.
Tennis action, the top seed and defending champion Elena Rybakina making it through to the quarterfinals of the WTA 500 Abu Dhabi Open in the UAE, but she was given a bit of a scare by the American contender. Her name is Katie Volinets to seal a 2-6, 6-4, 6-4 victory. Now, of course, Rybakina will face either Tunisia's Ons Jabeur or Wanaka Sonobe of Japan in the last 8. And finally, South Africa's MotoGP star Brad Binder is back in action as pre-season testing begins in Sepang, Malaysia. After a long off-season, Binder took his Red Bull KTM for a spin and declared it fast, hinting at positive progress. But while the pace is promising, KTM's long-standing rear grip issues remain a concern. Meanwhile, the reigning world champion Jorge Martin wasn't as lucky. He suffered a major crash that left him with a broken hand and a foot that ruled him out for the next test. Now, Binder finished 5th in his last season's championship and will be hoping to push for more podiums when the season officially kicks off on the 28th of February in Thailand.
I promise you, my mind is on Dricus du Plessis. What is that line he said, the famous line? You don't know what we know. Julle weet nie wat ons, something like that.
Yeah, that's Rickers for you. I mean, the trash talk has already started. Okay. I don't know if it's going to end on Sunday while I mix my coffee at that time of the morning.
What time is the game? What time is the fight?
Really early, like 3 o'clock, because it's in
Australia.
Down Under. Yeah.
I called it a game. Can I call it a game?
Yes, it is a game.
Okay, it's a game. It's only a game. That's all. All right, that's it. More sport from you. When you got more to say?
I've got more. No, actually, I'll be back tomorrow morning.
On
the morning brief.
Oh my goodness.
I'll
okay,
see
there
you
we
there.
are. Night shift and day shift. There we are.
Bye.
We've upgraded. Our new GIS-linked national address database lets us connect with you better than ever before. By visualizing licensed and unlicensed households nationwide, we can ensure timely communication. Our payment reminders are a crucial tool to help you stay compliant and avoid penalties, empowering you to take proactive steps. Efficient electronic communication helps us collect fees seamlessly, bolstering the SABC's mandate in line with Section 27 of the Broadcasting Act. TV licenses. Pay yours, make a difference. President Cyril Ramaphosa will on Thursday, 6th of February, deliver the 2025 State of the Nation Address at the Cape Town City Hall. Tune in to the meeting point with Koketso Sachane with a special broadcast from 6 p.m., bringing you blow-by-blow coverage at the 2025 State of the Nation Address. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to Jimmy now, who hosts the SAFM Market Update. I'm going to Jimmy Mohau, right? Jimmy, it's an important time ahead of the SONA. What's moving markets?
Good evening, Ashraf. Good evening to the listeners. Markets are kind of hesitant. I mean, I looked at the performance, or at least the movements in early trade, and there didn't seem to be a lot of movement. There were a couple of updates that we got. We got a couple of warnings, things like profit warnings from Sasol that kind of concerned the market. But by and large, the markets have been almost waiting to get some information, some of them at least. Others, like the gold price, have continued to march on. Let me give you a quick sense of what's coming up on the show today first, and then we'll look at what the market movements for the day were. We're going to be taking a look at some developments in the labour space. It looks as though we've gotten another increase to the minimum wage in South Africa. We're going to be reflecting on that with a labour law expert to try and see where that puts South Africans that are looking at that figure as an important figure for them, and what it means for the overall labour market in the country. We're also going to be taking a look at some early budget expectations with Standard Bank. We're going to be probably building up to a lot of these conversations and expectations over the next 2 weeks. We know that budget speech is set to happen later this month, probably around the 19th or the 20th of February. So we're looking forward to that, and we might just start a bit of our build-ups a little early. We've also got a conversation with the Financial Sector Conduct Authority, the FSCA. We do this with them every Wednesday, or as many Wednesdays as we can, around some of the warnings that they put out, some of the consumer awareness and things that consumers need to be aware of. It looks as though things like impersonations and unrealistic returns still would seem to be the flavor of the day when it comes to people being taken advantage of. So we try to educate our consumers and our listeners as much much as possible on things to avoid. And then we've got a conversation reflecting on the role of the automotive space in mining, particularly when we're looking at things like EV vehicles and the transition there. This is a part of the Mining Indaba conversations that we've been having throughout the week. The Mining Indaba is still ongoing in Cape Town, of course, so we're going to be reflecting on that conversation and seeing if we can make sense of that. And then, because it's a Wednesday, we wrap up all our Wednesdays with an Executive Lounge feature. This week's executive is the CEO of Honor South Africa. We're going to be getting to know the gentleman a little bit better and getting to know what he gets up to when he's not running Honor South Africa. But before we get to all of that, as I said, markets have been kind of treading a bit of water, trying to figure out where it is they're going. Some positive news, the likes of the rand against the dollar gaining a lot of ground. The rand's back at 18 rand 54 cents against the US dollar. It's at around 19.32 against the euro and around 23 rand and 20 against the British pound. One Australian dollar will cost you 11 rand and 66 cents. If we look at commodities prices, gold, as I said, the flavor of the day, the flavor of the month at this point, $2,875 a fine ounce at the moment, but was a lot higher than that earlier today. New all-time highs yet again. The price of Brent crude, $75.47 a barrel. Good to be back at that $75 range. Platinum and palladium still above $1,000 an ounce in each case. Platinum leading there, $1,022 an ounce. Palladium, $1,015. And if we look at the equity markets, equities were by and large in mixed territories across all of the international markets, with the Asian markets obviously having been trading first. The Chinese markets were all in the red. The Sydney ASX was in the green. The Nikkei in Tokyo was in the green. European markets also a bit of a mixed bag, with the CAC 40 in the red, but the DAX in Germany and the FTSE in London both in the green. US markets are in the red at the moment. The Nasdaq is down 0.75%, but of course they still have the evening to trade into. Our own local markets were also a bit of a mixed bag. About 9 basis points down were the industrials sector stocks. Financials down 8 basis points, but resources up 1.6% off of those stronger commodities prices. All share was up about 0.1%, and the all share was the top 40 was up about 0.33%. We're going to be looking at these movements in a little bit of time. We're going to also be looking at the fact that Bitcoin is back below $100,000 a coin, but it is still in the region of 1.8 million rands in terms of coin based on the exchange rate. So we've got lots to dig into, but we'll dig into that at 6 o'clock. For now, Ashraf, back to you.
Okay, absolutely. I'll leave it to all of that you do. 6 to 7 is the SFM market update, and then thereafter Michael Abramson hosts sports. So looking forward to those conversations too. But very importantly, I'm looking forward to engaging you as we step up the audience engagement here on the National Pulse.
Outsurance has another random fact for you. In 1999, a litre of petrol cost just under 3 rand. Now it's about 21 rand. It's scary how prices keep going up. In times like these, it's encouraging to know that Outsurance has got your back and is committed to saving you money on your car insurance. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. Danica knows all about saving on her 2018 Haval H2.
I saved 455 rand. It was quick and easy.
Here's Lebo with her sweet 644 rand saving on her 2019 Mazda CX-3.
Gave me the best quote ever. My savings is 644 rand. Come join our insurance and save some money.
You heard it here first. SMS out to 30754. That's out to 30754. With Outsurance, you always get something out. A licensed insurer and FSP. T's and C's online.
Hi everyone, my name is Itumele Nkune, SABC Sport football analyst. When I feel down and I listen to gospel, it gives me motivation. I'm a person who loves all genres. If I was a chef, my favorite meal that I would prepare would be pap, cabbage, meaty bones, with a bit of acha on the side. My favorite language is Portuguese. Bom dia, como está? Estou bem. What I like about SABC Sport is they give you the platform and the permission to be yourself and speak any language.
Catch the ever-passionate Itumele Nkune's analysis of Ibola Leju on match days, live on Latuma. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Okay, you need to hear this now. The year has certainly kicked off. In fact, we're into month 2, right? So if you're like most people, then you've spent more time researching resolutions than actually starting. Gym, meal prep, meditation, still deciding, so on and so on. Now, luckily, getting your car covered online with Santam is faster than picking a resolution to stick to. It only takes 2 minutes. To switch, visit santam.co.za. Santam, this is freedom.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Okay, let's get to your thoughts and your calls. There's lots of people wanting to comment about some of the biggest issues. I'm going to run through as many as we can, right? So we've got minimum wage, there's an increase. Let's get comment.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. You know what, Ashraf? I'm listening to this lady who's giving details of the minimum wage and the increase of it, whatever. Man, employers are not bothered by that. The domestic workers, the farm workers, these places who they claim they are protecting their workers on, they are flooded by foreign nationals. Employers are not bothered by this minimum wage. So government should make a plan of first protecting the workers, South African workers, and make sure that they are employed. At the moment, only foreign nationals, illegal foreign nationals mostly, who are working on the farms and in domestic sector. Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you. I'm not sure when you say they're not bothered, like meaning they don't care or they don't hire people because of minimum wage, or they hire them and they don't pay them the minimum wage. What is it? I'm really not clear about that in terms of what you said.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Well, the president always talking, but there's no implementation. The plan are good, everything is good, but there's no implementation. What we are expecting from the president tomorrow? Thank you so much, Ashraf. This is Chipar Masamula from Mikurenakato, original in Popakasukune, Ipagane village.
Right, we need you to come and deliver the State of the Nation address. I'll tell you what, you'll get us all excited. That I'm sure about. What about Trump's on inauguration?
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Imarumoye in Mahiki. In his inauguration speech, Donald Trump, he said, America makes the impossibilities very possible. Now when he said that he will remove the people from Gaza there to the neighboring countries, I was not surprised. He said it in his inauguration speech. This is Marumen Maiki. We have reduced our time from 1 minute to 30 seconds, man, but that's okay. Thanks, Ashraf.
No, but 30 seconds really helps. So it helps us to get to more people. That's what I'm saying. A call-in is different, especially with the WhatsApp. The 30 seconds allows us to get as many voices as possible, and you've just done that. Well, I mean, you're right. I think he said, we do the impossible. And this is why I want to comment about it, because those who say, Trump is just talking, I think you must take him very seriously, because he's pronounced on so many things already. Why would you not take Donald Trump seriously based upon what he said in the last few days? Eunice in Joburg, go for it.
Yeah, hi there, Ashraf.
Yeah, good.
Ashraf, just to comment on the guy you had on earlier, called Guy. Now,
which guy? Oh, the guy called. Okay, got that. Yeah, from I-24, Israel 24.
Yeah. What he didn't tell you was, for example, that the Gaza Strip was under a 20-year air, sea, and land blockade. People were literally starved. It was called the biggest open-air prison in the world. He spoke of the settlers being there before that, but what he didn't tell you was those were illegal settlers. So the indigenous people were basically kicked out when the settlers moved in there. That's one. Now, you're talking of Trump. His U.S. Mideast envoy, Steve Witkoff, has even gone one step further. He says, no, the Palestinians should be relocated in Indonesia. How's that? Now, I think lastly, we've all heard what Trump's got to say is ludicrous statements. But behind the scenes, now what he's doing via Steve Witkoff is trying to cut the Qataris and the Egyptians off, wants to negotiate directly there to make some sort of settlement as if anyone's going to accept that settlement. Now, lastly, this media narrative on this whole scenario unfolding in the Middle East has to change. For example, why do we constantly hear of Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners? Most of those people, Palestinians who were incarcerated without trial. I mean, there was no trial. They were basically, if you take the PFLP leader, that's Khalida Darar, She was incarcerated 6 months in solitary confinement. Reminds you of Robert Sobukwe. She lost her voice. I mean, for petty things as giving a media interview. Now, really, we expect the media, even in this country, Ashraf, to be more circumspect in all these
Well,
things.
I think you raise an important point, and I'll take it not just for this media or this station or this shows or across the board. I think the way things are framed are important, and I think as we saw yesterday with Donald Trump talking while he's doing it, Netanyahu smiling away, but different people. I mean, you've had feedback from different countries, so there's going to be supporters of Trump's point of view. There are obviously some who are completely against it.
Ashraf,
yeah.
If you want to get a sober voice in this country, I haven't heard them on many radio stations. I've seen them on television a few times. Get someone from the South African Jews for a Free Palestine. You got Alan Horvitz there. You got a lady called Joel there, and listen to them. Your faith in humanity for that part of the world may be restored.
Okay, maybe. I mean, that's one point. Yeah.
And lastly, people have sent in voice notes to say what they think of Trump. The Zulu word to describe Trump will be uyasanya.
Okay, got that. And by the way, just to comment about Guy, I mean, clearly, so Guy is a correspondent giving his opinion. Of course, as he gives his opinion on those issues, there's some things we challenge him, on other things we just let it go, knowing we have another point of view on that, because we can't extend that conversation beyond the time allocated, just so that you know that. But your point is right, as many people have said, that in fact that whole point about resettlement started a long time ago. Okay, more thoughts. Here's another comment on minimum wage.
The government should rather enroll the president, cabinet, MECs, premiers, MPs, etc. on the national minimum wage for us to have the better service from them. Otherwise, they should just stop disturbing our peace with this national minimum wage. An increment that is not even up to 30 rand an hour. This is an insult. Let's check just today. Petrol went up. Electricity increment by NESA is gone up. Load shedding is coming again. It's Bramoro in Bloemfontein.
Thanks, but don't you think it's complicated? Even the team that put together the national minimum wage said that they have to balance it out. They can't raise the minimum wage to a point where people stop getting employed. I mean, it's an important issue, isn't it?
Ashraf, it's Ben here. State of the nation, stagnant. We're not going anywhere. Thanks.
Stagnant. Sydney in Mpumalanga, go for it.
Brother Ashraf, now that the SONA is tomorrow's the day of the SONA, the new, not necessarily the new, of course the new parliament, at least they must do this. They must establish a council like, a ministry like. The same vigor and power applied to deal with COVID, to deal with load shedding. Let's have another council, a ministry like, to deal with graduate unemployment.
Yeah, I'm battling to hear you, Sydney. I'm going to have to cut it short. I heard you say unemployment. We can't hear you clearly. Not necessarily your fault. It just could be a connectivity problem, but it just means we can't continue. I'm so sorry about that, okay? Let's get another thought from Tapiwa. You want to talk about Trump?
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Right. What's your point?
Sorry. I just think that Americans, they voted for what they knew that is what is coming. And it's not a surprise. It's only us who are surprised up here in Africa. But in America, they are not shocked at all because they know what they were voting for. And it was tried and tested the first time. So everything that you could not do a first term is doing it now. So, yeah, there we go.
Well, there you are. Certainly in the second term, he's moving full scale ahead. And my point to you earlier, which I said earlier, is don't for one minute think he's just making, this is just a negotiating gambit. This is Trump. This is Donald Trump. You better take him seriously. I didn't say he's right. I said you better take him seriously. Tapiwa, thanks for that. Right. Lots more comments on mainly Donald Trump and SONA, the one word for SONA, and maybe further comments. We'll talk tomorrow about expectations at SONA, but your one word to describe the current state of the nation, not the State of the Nation address, just the state of the nation. I'd like to hear it.
Whenever Trump says he's going to do something, he does it. So why do we go over the same thing over and over and over and over and over again? I've been since the week started, we've been talking about the same guy. We're giving him too much air. You're giving him too much air. and he's not our president, so why care? Like whatever he says he's gonna do, or whatever he says he's not going to do, it all depends on our president. So how about we start being patriotic about everything and focus on ours?
Well, I mean, of course we need to be more patriotic and focus on us. And I always say the best way to be patriotic is to link your personal purpose with the national purpose. If you have a sense of what do you do for yourself, what do you do for the country, then we build our country. But to ignore Donald Trump when he talks about your country, with the level of influence Donald Trump has, he has influence. You can't deny that fact. So that's why we can't ignore him. It's just the truth, right? There's further comments from you. Ashraf, please get Rob Herzog on your show just to get a different perspective on things. People generally will not like his ideology, but it does give one something to ponder from, I think it's AD, maybe Advocate J. Bay, maybe. Another word, one word for Sona, same old nonsense again. Another word, one word for Sona, implosive, and another one for Sona, chaotic. All right, let's get to another one-worder.
Hi, Ashraf. Thanks for a great show. My one word would be diabolical.
Appreciate the great show, and I hope you're not saying the show is diabolical, but I got your point. Diabolical. Oh, my goodness, man.
Hi, Ashraf. Anonymous in Limpopo. I just want to find out about that 500 million for Spaza shop. So where is it now? Is it distributed or what? Tell me.
Yeah, it's an issue raised earlier on. I think maybe when we got time, we need to pick up more on that issue. Maybe time for one more quick call if you want to raise it. Any other issues? 086 000 2032 minimum wage. Does that fire your imagination, or is it something that you're not interested in? I'd be surprised.
12. Kaushiwamsela from Mokopane. My one word for Sona is monotonous. Thank you very much.
And on that same point, I mean, here's a tweet from Itumeleng Makua saying, so Trump can expropriate Panama Canal, the Gulf of Mexico, and even Gaza without any form of compensation, and yet get irritated when we expropriate our own land with compensation through legal means nogal. Well, it's a point I made. He can't get called up by the ICC or the ICJ, but can you think of any other person in the world who can actually say we are going to move? We're not going to negotiate. We're going to move whole people. 1.7 is what he said. People, 1.7 million people to another place, and whichever countries they're going to, and as if like nothing's happened, and get away with it.
Hi, Ashraf. I think the only people who can stop Trump and his rampage are the Senate and the House of Representatives in the U.S. I think that's a real test for American democracy. Can they really stop this guy from doing whatever the hell he wants to do? That's the key thing. The rest of us, there's really nothing we can do, honestly. Thanks. Motlatsi here, Midrand.
Thanks for that. I'll tell you what, in the space of a couple of weeks, can you just imagine how many things he's pronounced on and activated? And I'll tell you what, here's the fear. And we can't say it's not our business. It is our business because it has an impact on every one of us. It's a domino effect. Maybe he's only getting started. Sure. That's a scary thought.
Joe from Durban. While it's commendable for the president to engage directly with Musk, we must be very cautious of the new techno-feudalism and the techno-feudal lords that are emerging around Donald Trump and the enormous wealth and power they wield. Starlink, while it may have the potential to grant data access, Musk gets billions in subsidies from the US taxpayer, unbeknown to most. And this gives him the funds to wipe out the competition as far as internet access goes. Order is already very clear is how Twitter, Facebook, YouTube already and Instagram already censor content that they feel is not in their political interests or those they support. And with Starlink, then it's not only content, but you can regulate and control access to the internet.
Well, I'll tell you
That's
what,
very dangerous.
I hear what you're saying, Joe. It's interesting in terms of where Elon Musk has positioned himself, from being on the outside and then critical of the former president. He's now like the choir boy. He's the chief cheerleader of Donald Trump. And that's why the other day I said, what did I say? Elon Trump. And he's used his resources, which are formidable, to be the chief campaign organizer or cheerleader, not just election time, but the real work starts now. Clearly, they have a collaboration pact. When we talk about the GNU, they have their own collaboration pact that we need to see in terms of not just America, but the rest of the world.
Afternoon, Ashraf. It's my belly here. No, Donald Trump has been honest to his campaign. He's been increasing everything that has been increased on the tariffs, deportation, and renaming stuff, reclaiming stuff. Everything has been true to his campaign, and he said he's going to put America first. Yes, indeed, he is putting America first. Thank you, Ashraf.
Okay, I mean, it's an interesting point, but I'll end with this. Yes, he's blunt. Yes, he's straightforward. Yes, he's abrasive. Yes, he says what he's going to do. Yes, he's very, very decisive. Does all of that mean that he's right? All of that. He can be all of those things. But is he actually right? This is the person who actually incited his supporters to storm Capitol Hill. Remember that? Is he right? Think about that. This is the National Pulse. We'll have another conversation around all things that moves the pulse of the nation tomorrow from 3 to 6. So thanks for listening. Have a wonderful evening if you can. And let's make a commitment to talk again tomorrow. It's 6 o'clock now. Here's Greg Coase with the news.
Thank you again, Ashraf. Ramaphosa hopes for a Trump visit and a call for rapid economic reform. Good evening. As South Africa's chairing the G20, President Cyril